Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Essays and Espresso podcast. Here with me, I am joined by the usual folks, but we also have a guest. I have with me Sam. How are you doing, Sam?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How about all of you?
I'm doing good.
Wonderful.
So, those of you who are unaware, Sam here is also known as Games is Lit, the gaming professor. He has a multitude of wonderful videos that are analyzing the narrative significance and the thematic and symbolic significance of, an assortment of different games. He's done BioShock, Spec Ops: The Line, Final Fantasy VII, The World Ends With You. This guy has done a bunch of fantastic videos. So after you're done listening to this, if you've never watched any of his videos, please give him a shot. I especially recommend the Final Fantasy VII video. Really loved that one. So again, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me and saying such nice things about my videos.
He never introduces me like this.
I wonder why.
You want me to introduce you like that every episode?
Of course.
It's not going to be that glamorous.
Oh.
And as you just heard him grumble, that was Acer, everyone. Acer, how are you doing?
I already said I was doing fine, you mediocre host.
Damn.
Well, I felt like I hurt your feelings, so I just wanted to make sure that you were doing all right. I know you hold my opinion in very high esteem.
Yeah.
And Boken, how are you?
I'm also fine. Or I think I said wonderful before. Or fabulous or whatever.
So your disposition changed that drastically within like a minute or two.
Yeah. And now it's back up.
Now it's back up. Awesome. Okay. So lately, I've been reading
What's
this
our
book.
topic, Daniel? You mediocre
What's
host?
our topic? I am a mediocre host. Fuck. Yes, so we're going to be talking about some of our favorite narratives in games. We kind of settled on just talking about one, but we may throw in like an honorable mention just in case we just can't contain ourselves. But yeah, we're just the four of us are just going to go down, talk about like a game whose narrative we think is special, and we're just going to go into detail about that.
I think we're going to need to have a 30-minute discussion on how many games I can pick.
Please don't. Anyways, so I'm not technically finished with it yet, but I have been reading this book about Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. It is the same book line as the Silent Hill 2 book that I discussed last time. So, and to be clear, for Boken's sake, I am reading this book. This is not an audio book. This is not another plug for Audible. I am physically reading the book. I hope that makes you happy.
I feel
Boken.
like we've given so much free advertisement to Audible over the years.
I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah.
And look, it takes me like 40 minutes to get to work and to come back home. It's very convenient to have something to listen to. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, audiobooks are fantastic. You've got my support there.
Yeah,
yes,
great.
Thank you.
Daniel even listens to them when he goes into his car to eat his lunch alone during work.
Yeah, while he's playing on his
Thank you
Vita.
for that.
That's another inside joke.
Thank you for that. But yeah, so I've been reading this book about Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the first one, not the MMO. And
that's just called
so
the Old
far,
Republic. You're not a real KOTOR fan.
How am I not a real KOTOR fan?
Because you made a mistake that everybody makes.
No, I didn't.
You said it's not the MMO. The MMO isn't called Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, I know that.
And why did you say it so weirdly?
I'm just, Acer, I am just clarifying for the audience.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyways, so far this book is pretty interesting.
Talking down to our audience,
It-
very nice.
Oh, shut up! I am not talking down to them. They know, they understand. You're just being a sourpuss. So, and before you ask, no, your video hasn't been mentioned yet.
What? Outrageous.
Maybe it will. I don't know. I haven't finished the book
They
yet.
better.
I'll let you know.
Do you know there's a guy, I'm just gonna hijack this topic. When I released
ahead.
my KOTOR, I think it was my KOTOR 2 video, or maybe my KOTOR 1, I don't remember. There was some guy who had another KOTOR video, and he renamed his video to be the exact name as my video, and now he's changed it back.
Huh?
And I don't mean like the same name. No, like he like I always put like those little black dots hovering in the middle. He did that too. He just copied and pasted my exact title and put it on his video. What a scumbag!
You mean the ellipses?
I don't know what it's called.
Black dots in your title?
mean
You guys are
mean
you're hovering over the wrong part. It just-
You mean
just-
the periods?
No, stop hovering over this one. Just the black big dot.
What are you talking about? What?
Ugh.
I have no fucking clue what you
Oh my
mean.
God. You boys could just go on my channel and you'll see all my videos have like a big black dot, a big circle, in the name.
Oh, okay. So like, okay,
I don't know,
so a
Daniel.
look at,
You can't tell me what it's called. I don't know. That's not the point. The point.
Yeah, I see it. I don't know what that dot is. I have an English degree and I have no idea what that dot is. But
Fuck, now I need to
but
see
it is
as
a
well.
thing.
See, because I don't know why, but in my head, I thought your videos were a look back at ellipses Star Wars. But no, you're right. You have this like dot.
Yes, and some guy copied it.
Are you now going like, wait a minute, that would have been a good idea?
No. Ellipses? No. I used to have ellipses, but I don't anymore.
Is that like an ASCII sign? How do you get it? How do you write it?
You copy and paste it from my video. That's how I do it.
From your first title? You've been reusing your first title?
Yeah.
Very smart.
Thank you.
Yeah, some
Fascinating.
things like that, like the M dash. I think there's technically a way to make it on a keyboard, or no, because there's not even. Like, you have to go into the weird symbols thing, right? There are just some bits of punctuation that you can't make except to copy other people who have.
Yeah.
It's like whenever I want to write the shrug guy face, and then I type into Google shrug guy, and then I land on the Atlantic page. They probably make millions of that page that just lets you copy the exact emoji or whatever. Like, it's not an
Yep.
emoji, but...
Yeah.
And the worst thing is you can just write /shrug in Discord, and you're gonna get it.
What?
But I'm so used to copying it. Yeah.
Yeah. I do the same thing when I want like, if I don't know how to
Whoa.
recreate something, it's just, yeah. Oh, wait, what?
It
Really?
totally
You can
works.
just write /shrug, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Check what I can do, guys.
Huh.
Okay, so what about
But-
Kota?
Yes, I was about to get back to that after I was rudely interrupted. So I remember. Speaking of your video, though, Acer, I do distinctly remember in your video you had mentioned that you couldn't find anything specifically in which a developer said something that the intent of the game was wish fulfillment, like Star Wars wish fulfillment. But in this book, the developers are questioned. There are interviews with the actual developers for the sake of the book, and they do say that. They did say that was their aim. They wanted the game to feel like Star Wars wish fulfillment. So
Oh.
you were right.
I can sort of see that, but also Knights of the Old Republic isn't fun to play, so that seems a little weird. But I like Knights of the Old Republic,
it's-
but man, like
they probably didn't
it's-
set out to not make it fun to play.
It's wish
I mean,
fulfillment
yeah,
in the
that's
sense
true.
of living in the world, not playing it.
yeah, it's very much a
Yes.
world. Yeah, I guess that is a pretty RPG-ish type of wish fulfillment, so I suppose that makes sense. I've usually seen that kind of talk in Star Wars games about, like, oh yeah, you get to be a Jedi and how cool that is, and I don't think KOTOR manages that at all. But yeah, that's true in terms of being like involved in the world of Star Wars. That I can definitely see that.
Yeah. It was more from the perspective of it lets you feel like you're a part of the Star Wars world
Yeah.
and mythos, and like you feel like you're a part of that universe when you're playing KOTOR, compared to something like Jedi Academy, which is a fun game to play, but you don't feel immersed in the world of Star Wars in the way that you do in KOTOR.
Right.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think I disagree with that.
It's a very
Really,
different
would-
kind of immersion, at least. Like
Yeah.
the
Sure.
difference between I don't know that I would call Jedi like Jedi Knight or Jedi Academy immersive sims necessarily, but you know,
No, of
they've got
course
that
not.
Same,
Yeah.
like, you know, they've got that first person perspective. You can feel like you're there, maybe. Whereas an RPG like KOTOR is going to be more about feeling like you're an active part of the world, and you know, different
But-
kinds
Yeah,
of
yeah,
immersion.
There are parts of Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. Just the platforming with your Jedi powers, throwing around the enemies, like having these duels and shit. That makes you feel like you're an actual Jedi. There's this one bit in
Yeah.
Jedi Outcast where you're inside this giant Empire ship, and you need to just jump from like from these weird platforms with like consoles on them, and they all don't have any connecting bridges because the room is powered down, and you're not supposed to be in there, and you just get around because of your Jedi powers. And it's a really cool platforming segment. It's awesome.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I am absolutely not shitting on Jedi Knight or Jedi Academy. Those games are awesome. I just meant that, like, yeah, the type of immersion that you get from KOTOR isn't the same as the one from Jedi Academy and Jedi Outcast, where like those games,
Right.
you know, they really get across like the look and feel of Star Wars, and they're very fun to play, and they do make you feel like a Jedi, or you know, or at least like the first half of Outcast, where you feel like, you know, like a Han Solo-esque, like blasty shooty guy. But KOTOR is very much about like interacting with the world, with the characters,
Different cultures.
you know,
Yeah.
you go from planet to planet on your ship, and you get to see what all the different like inhabitants' lives are like, and it's a very different type of thing. Like I would probably say that Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy feels more like what it's like to be in the movies, while KOTOR lets you experience stuff like outside of the purview of the films. Like you really get to feel like you're part of the world.
Yeah. I guess I see immersion and wish fulfillment as slightly different, but, you know, in any case, I definitely understand that. That does make sense. And I didn't mean to derail things so completely, so...
This is the kind of content that we love to give our audience. Don't even worry about it. But yeah, it's pretty interesting so far. It isn't quite as, at least not yet, it's not as like introspective as the Silent Hill 2 book. That book was very, very focused on analyzing Silent Hill 2 as a work of art. While
And
this
they
book
didn't-
so far
they didn't
is
even mention my video on it.
Well,
They
this
did
is,
mention Ragnarok.
This is boss fight books, right? And if I
yes.
recall correct, I have the set of the first 10 that they made, and they're all written by different people, right?
Yes.
So it definitely makes sense that the sort of the style and focus would end up being a bit different between them.
Yes. This is the fourth one.
I'm gonna see if I can make a book on Silent Hill 3, and I'm just gonna constantly reference my own video. I'm gonna try to try to get that plucked.
We see his evidence in this video, which I am not biased toward in any way.
Yeah, this is the fourth book of these that I've gone through, or like or I'm working through at least. And they're all very different from each other, which I think is both to its credit and to their detriment, because if you do want something a little more consistent, considering they're all from like the same book line, you might be disappointed. But I like it because each of them has like a different flavor to them.
Yeah. Oh, and I just went on their site and saw that they've made one on Final Fantasy VI now, so pardon me while I...
Yeah, I'll probably pick that up too. I know there's one on Final Fantasy V, I believe.
Yeah, which is a weird one to focus on since, like, no
Yeah.
one's played Final Fantasy V. But, I mean, that's cool. That's good. Final Fantasy V
No,
deserves more, focus. But...
Absolutely. But yeah, like I was saying, so like with this book compared, like Silent Hill 2 again was very, very focused on analyzing the game and breaking it down and trying to figure out the meaning of certain scenes, and it was very in depth in that regard. While this book, by comparison, it seems a lot more focused on like breaking down like the development of the game, what the developers, what their intentions were, what they went through to make the game. There's a lot of like details on the history of like, what they were going through, how they were working with LucasArts. So if you're like really interested in how the game itself was made, how it came about, so far this seems to be like a pretty easy recommendation for that. Like, and I love that kind of stuff, so I've been enjoying it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really good so far. And aside from that, I also literally, not even like a couple hours ago, I just finished this game called Before Your Eyes. So have either of you guys heard of
I
this?
need to play that. I have heard such good things. I really need to get around to it.
Acer, Boken, have you heard of it?
No.
No. Okay. So, Jacob Geller did a wonderful video about it, and previous podcast guest Rasputin recently did a video recommending multiple indie titles, and this was one of them.
Did he recommend my game?
And I'm sorry, he did not.
Oh.
Maybe next time, buddy.
I'm just gonna quickly remove from friend list.
So yeah, I don't want to give too much away about this game because it's very short. You can finish it in under 2 hours, and it really is one of those titles that's best the less you go into it. But
I know what
the
it's
main-
about. Just from the title.
okay,
It's based on the story, right? About the guy who falls asleep. And he sees like visions and he's... No, wait.
no, that's not it.
Nope. I'm thinking
No.
of Beyond...
You are thinking of something else.
yes, I'm thinking of Beyond the Sleep or Beyond the Wall of Sleep. I don't remember.
I've never heard of that.
Yes, you have. I've talked about it on this very podcast, you scumbag.
Oh, I'm sorry. My memory is getting worse and worse every day. I'm sorry.
Oh, I
Look,
know.
after the last year or so, I'm surprised we can all still, like, comprehend the concept of linear time, so...
True that. But to
You know,
quickly
Beyond
run
the Wall
down
of
just
Sleep has some interesting things to say about time.
okay. I'll give that a shot later. Then that sounds interesting.
I don't
But
think you will.
don't sell me short. But anyways, so to quickly just run down like what the main conceit of the game is. So it's a game that works best if you have your webcam on, because it tracks your blinking. You are able to progress in the game by physically blinking
Oh, yeah,
and
it's
your
that
webcam.
game.
Yeah,
Didn't you
and
already
your
talk about
webcam
it?
like detecting it. What?
Didn't you already talk about it?
No, I literally just finished it today.
Somebody talked about it.
I guess maybe not me.
Look, all I'm saying is that it's not actually original. The whole like controlling blinking thing was already done in the beloved classic Alone in the Dark for the Xbox 360, and I'm just
Oh my
saying
God,
it's
you're
already
right.
so tired. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, that game is trash, but hilarious trash. I kind of I want to analyze it someday just for the lulz, but
I
yeah.
would love you to do that, please.
Yeah, well,
That
someday,
sounds great.
but my next bad analysis was voted to be Sonic 06 for some reason, even though I just wanted to do,
Oh no.
I wanted to do Ride to Hell Retribution, but everyone voted Sonic 06 because they hate me, so...
Ride the Hell would have been so much better.
You can't give the people that much power.
Yeah, I'm probably honestly just gonna do Ride to Hell as my next joke one after this, because I want to. The game is
Yeah,
a
Ride the Hell would have
delight.
been so. Oh, that's so much better than fucking Sonic. I don't want to say too much more about Before Your Eyes. All I will say is, it was a wonderful experience. It made me cry a lot by the end of it, and that's all I'm gonna say. You should go play it if you wanna feel sad and also hopeful by the end.
I do
It's-
like
it's
games
good
that
stuff.
make me cry, and also specifically watch my eyes while they do that. That sounds
I'm not gonna say too much, but at the end of the game, when I was tearing up, the webcam had a hard time registering my eyes at that point, and I think the developers knew that would happen, given what happens towards the end, and that's all I'm gonna say.
All right.
This is like
So,
a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm taking
What
this
is it,
as a
Poke?
challenge.
Oh, are you gonna stonewall the game? You're
Yeah,
just gonna be like,
fuck you.
You're gonna be like, no,
I
you're
don't
not
cry.
gonna make me feel shit.
Fucking pussy ass games.
That would be interesting. I want to see how you go through it and how you like stonewall your heart and be like, no, I ain't gonna.
I
You're
am
gonna
kind
do
of
it.
emotionally dead, so that's probably gonna happen.
Damn. Anyways, Sam, what have you been up to?
Oh, well, actually trying this whole Games is Lit thing full time recently because I
Woo!
got fired. So,
Oh, that's not a woo.
yeah, yeah. Games is Lit is something that, like, it's an important part of my and my partner's income, but not, a main part of it. It's just not making enough for that because, YouTube advertising, every 3 months or so, it's like, here's $100. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, thanks. And then Patreon, I've got, a bit coming on, but, I made the mistake of talking to my manager about how there are problems that are making our jobs harder and they should be fixed, and he got mad at me and fired me. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it's a whole thing, but it, thankfully I did get, approved for unemployment benefits, and so we're gonna see. My partner does the budget, and she's working through things to try and see if we can make it for a little while, but we both would really like to give me a little while to try and see if I can make more content doing this full time and get it into something that has enough support to be a second job for us. So, we'll see. Right now, I have 3 videos written and another one currently in the process of writing. 2 of those 4 are analyses of a Ghost Trick Phantom Detective and Halo 3, respectively.
Oh, I love Ghost Trick.
Yeah, it was one that was requested by a patron from back when I had like a Patreon support amount that let people like give me a game to analyze. I'm shamefully behind. I have a list I need to get up on. So I'm I'm working on that, trying to do all this full time. We're finishing up my new set in the new house that we bought and moved to. We're finishing the set this weekend, so I should be able to film
Cool.
them soon and stuff. So, it's been a lot of games as lit work, along with playing things like I finished Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I am, of course, playing Neo: The World Ends With You, which I'm enjoying a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I never played The World Ends With You, but I saw that you released like all these videos on it, so I'm sure
A 6-video series, yes, because I love the game too much and have no concept of concision in my writing. So, yeah, highly recommended on the DS if you can, but the Switch version's fine. It's
I wanted
good
to.
stuff.
I wanted to watch your videos, but since I hadn't played the game, I was like, you're probably gonna like spoil the whole thing. So I was like, I'll come back when I beat the game.
Yeah, I always appreciate when people do that. Like, I make my videos with summaries and stuff specifically so that even someone who's never played a game in their life could watch them and understand, you know, that's always kind of been a goal, that even someone who doesn't play video games could watch one of my videos and sort of gain an understanding of their value. But I also, like, I have a personal, very deep hatred of, like, spoilers for me or anyone else, and I think that games are better experienced than summarized, so I always like when people actually take the time to play the games before watching my videos instead of just, you know, watching them and settling for the cheap facsimile of my summary over the actual game. But yeah, so anyway, all that to say, I'm I'm playing some games and trying to focus on games a lot more. Pretty soon I should have a number of videos that I can put out like bi-weekly, I'm thinking maybe, and then we'll see how that goes. But so life's moving along.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you can bounce back and Games is Lit starts, gaining more momentum, and it becomes easier for you.
Yeah, that's the hope. Thanks.
How's Ratchet and Clank, by the way?
Oh, I really, really enjoyed it. It's not the first Ratchet and Clank game I've played. It's the second, but it's the first one I've finished. And I enjoyed it a lot. It really is, man. The PS5 is something. Like, do any of you have one?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah, no. The thing is that it's not just that it's fast, it's that loading times are pretty much non-existent, and games made specifically for it know that and are designed around it. So, like, Ratchet and Clank straight up, like, there's none of that. You can warp from one area to the next, and there's just no wait. It cuts between areas and scenarios and stuff just immediately, and between that and just the technical proficiency of the whole thing in general, like, it legit just feels like you're playing a Pixar movie or something. It's really, really cool. I like it.
Not that this is not a good development, but I'm gonna miss the loading screens with concept art in them. I always really enjoyed those.
There's certainly some positive things. And, I liked, like, the teammate conversations in Mass Effect while you're loading from an elevator or whatever. And I'm sure that will still exist on some level because, like, other consoles and PC and stuff, like, you still have to have some kind of loading thing, right? Because if a game is on other things other than this one system that can just load everything with the snap of a finger, like, you need to allow for slower loading time. Wow, words are hard. You need to allow for slower loading times, so, like, that's just, those aren't going to go away entirely, but it sure seems like PS5 games, because they're pretty much all like this. I haven't seen anything even resembling a loading screen in Returnal, and the Demon's Souls remake has, like, you're all like, I'm going to go here, and then a bunch of fog sweeps in, and then a second or two later it sweeps away and you're there. So, like,
oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. That and the controller are definitely my favorite things about the system in general. Like, that haptic feedback is so cool. I've played games where it starts raining and there are just these little, like, pinpricks of vibration all over the controller. Like, there's rain falling on my hands. It's really cool.
That sounds really neat.
Yeah, but yeah, I didn't mean to get sidetracked into the PS5.
No,
the audience usually doesn't get to hear about the PS5.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I always feel like it's really cool, and I like talking about how cool it is, but also I feel bad because I know that, like, most people, like, I got lucky. I followed a bunch of, like, Twitter accounts that were pointing out whenever the PS5 went on sale, and I just happened to still be awake at 3 a.m. once when it went on sale at Amazon. So, like, I definitely got lucky. and I hope that they make it more available. That
Hey.
it gets more available sometime soon because
If you were up at 3 a.m., then you were and you got lucky. Then you were up to get lucky, like the song. It's my contribution.
Right?
You were up
You
all
mean the
night
Daft
to get
Punk
lucky.
the Daft Punk song. Yeah, I wasn't up all night till the sun, but
Oh,
or to get some for that matter. But yeah, I
well,
was
get
up
some PlayStation 5.
most of the night to get lucky. Yeah. Oh yeah, get some PS5s. That works. Or a PS, you know.
Is
Yeah,
that
for the
that
longest
song?
time, I'd been like, whenever one was available, my partner and I both would like get on our phones and our computers and both just try over and over again to get one, and then we never could, like, you know, but it worked eventually. I had to wake her up like, hey, I'm sorry, but I got a PS5. Yeah, you know.
She was like, "That's great, honey. Let me go back to bed."
you-
Oh, no, she was excited too.
do you
My
let
PS5
her-
is right next to her PS4 so we can play Apex together. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
No,
do you
that's
let her play with your PS5, or is that just like, nah, you can't. You buy your own.
Oh, of course, of course she does. Yeah, I mean, she mostly plays on her own PS4 because we have that for playing games together, and like she's playing the Mass Effect Legendary Edition right now and stuff. But there hasn't been any PS5 exclusive stuff that's super caught her interest, but she definitely has played it because that's we're both gamers and we share our stuff.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't really, there are a lot of stereotypes about, like, the man who loves video games and the woman who puts up with it, and I explicitly want to, like, quash those when it comes to us, because no, we're a nerd couple, and it's great.
Big gaming household.
That's wonderful.
Big gamers.
People often describe me and Boken as a nerd couple.
I don't think anyone does that, but okay.
You have a bunch of, like, ship art for your podcast.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
If I'm putting out a commission, guys.
I'm just like on the sidelines, just shaking my head.
Well, now I'm imagining, like, that classic X-Men image of, like, Jean Grey and Cyclops making out and Wolverine in the foreground just looking sad.
Yeah, it's me. And I'm also Wolverine with, like, stroking the picture on the bed.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a picture. Sam, it's a picture of you. He's like, come back.
But yeah, cool beans. Boken, I see that you watched Megalobox Season 2. I've
did.
been interested in that. How did that turn out?
You should watch it. It's
Oh.
an anime made for anime boomers such as you.
Yes.
What is
Yes.
Megalobox?
That's what I wanted to hear.
It's a boxing anime, basically.
Oh.
But it's very un-anime, if I can call it that.
Oh.
I don't know. I feel like a normal boxing anime, I don't know how many there are really, but the typical anime structure is, of course, the shonen, very tournament arc-y, sort of very fighting-focused stuff. And
You notice how, like, the older... I mean, this is not an old anime, but it is, like, evoking an older type of anime.
Yeah,
but,
it's
like,
specifically...
The older an anime is, the less anime it feels.
Yeah.
Because our conception of anime today is so fucking bonkers compared to, like, anime from, like, the 90s.
I am legitimately out on a quest right now to find anime that does not feature high schoolers or take place in a high school.
Damn it. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds.
I mean, there's plenty of anime like that.
Not current one.
Current? Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck.
I fucking started this anime about a guy who played the shamisen. Is that what the instrument is called? And I
idea.
I really wanted to watch an anime about a struggling musician, and then that asshole, like, he ran away from home, and then the first episode was great because he was just wandering around Tokyo being totally aimless, and then he enlisted into high school and got into his shamisen high school club, and I was like, fuck off. But yeah, Megalobox is it's about boxing, but it's really just about the emotional drama between the characters. And
I thought you were going to say it's actually about high school.
no, there are a bunch of kids, but surprisingly, they don't annoy me, and none of them go to school. And the gimmick is that they have like these gears that they're wearing while they're fighting, but that's not really. It's really not brought up. Like, it's not a part of the fight choreography. There really isn't much of a fight choreography. It's just they are wearing gears to somewhat enhance their fighting, and it's not super well developed or like very technical about what these gears can do. So that's just a bit of flavor. It's not the focus of the show. And then the part where the gears become important is when they're somewhat experimental. Like, there are some fighters who, one of them is a like quadriplegic is the word, right? And he got sort of a experimental gear by a company that gives him the power to not only walk but also fight again. And the season 2 is partly about how that gear affects him and that kind of stuff. And season 2 was like pretty amazing, I gotta say, because season 1 was good, but I didn't remember much of it, so I had to read up on it again.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how it compared to season 1.
Way better. Like, I liked season 1, but nothing really stuck with me that much except for the last fight. And then in season 2, there has been a huge time skip, and all of these characters suddenly have these massive regrets. Everyone looks differently. All the kids have grown up, and there was a falling out. And now it's like it's about how they get together again. And what their previous relationships to each other mean for them and stuff. It's kind of difficult to describe. What I really enjoyed about, like, I really loved it overall. It's like 13 episodes, and it's one of those really tightly written stories, like Madoka, for example, where every scene has a purpose, every character has something to do. Yeah, and it feels very realistic in that sense. And there was also one character in particular that was like the type of character that I'm noticing recently I really enjoy is when everything around them is like so flawed and fucked up, and that character is always that one character is always really cheerful and wholesome and like very flawless in a sense. And usually those characters are then involved in some kind of tragedy that affects the main character, like Ned Stark, for example. I don't know if you guys have watched Game of Thrones, but
Nope.
Ned Stark is spoilers for season 1 of Game of Thrones, I guess, but Ned Stark, of course, gets decapitated, even though in season 1 that's basically the main character of the story.
Look, he's Sean Bean. Like, that's not a spoiler. Of course he does.
But also, like, he's about the most good guy in the entire show of the good guys, because he's like seemingly the only one who's not a massive scumbag.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Like, the character is basically flawless and just trying to keep together this shitty world, and then he just gets betrayed by it and dies, and then that affects the entire rest of the story. Like, every other character is in some way affected by the execution of Sean Bean. And I like that. Yes, Sean Bean was actually executed on set. And I just enjoy. I think Mami in Madoka is a similar character like that, where just the death of that character is important for the rest of the story because that character has been so pure in a sense. So Megalobox
us with another Madoka Magica movie.
I'm not threatening you. That's just releasing.
Got announced.
No, I was saying, isn't the studio threatening us with another one?
I mean, it did end on a cliffhanger with Rebellion.
That is true.
No spoilers, I haven't seen it.
No, yeah, we won't say anything. But have you not seen Madoka at all?
No, I've seen the original show. I just haven't seen any of the movies.
Oh, okay. Well, the first, I think, 2 movies are just a recap of the show.
Yeah.
And
And then the
Yeah, and
other
then-
one is like a continuation, right?
yes, it is.
Which I feel like that story stands well on its own. I don't know if it needs more, but I don't know. I'm curious.
It really didn't need
I would
more.
agree. I would agree. It didn't need more.
But we're gonna get more, and we're gonna make a whole movie commentary on it, all 3 of us.
Let's just hope it's good.
I'm gonna spend the whole
Yeah.
time being like, who's this character again? Who's this character? What are their relationships? A white cat? What is this? And so on.
So I also watched The Green Knight. I've been in the cinema for the first time in 2 years, I guess.
People are-
I miss
people-
movies so much.
People talk about.
I've
the
been
Green
watching
Knight
plenty of
vaccinated.
movies.
Well, yeah, but like theaters. That's,
Yeah.
I'm
I'm not
not
sure yet if
during
I-
the
if I
pandemic
actually
at all,
missed-
but
I'm not
I
sure
mean,
if
not
I
that the
actually
pandemic's
missed them
over,
or
but-
not, to be honest. I'm pretty
I-
content watching movies at home.
I love going to them. My partner and I have a Regal Unlimited pass, and of course that's been on
Ooh.
hold. Well, everything. So, but since we're vaccinated, we've been going back lately, and I love it. I'm going to see The Green Knight soon, actually. So, what'd you think?
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome movie.
What
It's
is
by
this movie?
what the fuck is his name? Sean Lowry, I think the director is called. And I watched his previous movie, A Ghost Story, a couple of years ago, and that was such a masterpiece. Like it's
Not to be confused with the anime Ghost Stories.
not to be confused with that. Yes.
But you can watch Ghost Stories the anime and then jump right into Green Knight and you won't miss anything, right?
You won't miss a beat. Especially if you're watching the dub.
True.
I'm afraid you're going to miss a lot in Green Knight because it's a very experimental and inaccessible movie.
Ugh.
But that's
Oh, I can tell. I just looked up online and the ratings are all over the place.
yeah. That's like when all the critics are raving and then the audience is like, "Ugh, fuck this. It's boring." And then it's a good
Nothing
movie.
happens.
Yeah. He goes from place A to place B and it takes 5 minutes. It's so boring.
Look.
But yeah,
look,
it's difficult
if
to talk about
if
it, I
If it takes
guess.
20 minutes and it's boring and you could have done it in 2 minutes, do it in 2 minutes. Don't waste my time.
It's not boring though.
Not necessarily.
That's
The
what people
audience
always
reviews
complain about.
Say that it's boring. We're not going to
Yeah,
jump back
I,
to the boring debate.
I'm honestly kind of the opposite of a lot of people. If I see audience score lower than critic score, I'm like, well, it's probably good then.
Yeah. I mean, not always. I feel like critics tend to overrate certain things, especially in the gaming sphere. But
Yeah, it depends on the type of movie, I suppose. But
Yeah.
ever since The Last Jedi got review bombed, I'm like, yeah, I don't, I'll trust the critics on these.
But I
Yeah,
feel like
fair.
also I feel like whenever audiences bomb something like The Last Jedi, or when critics bomb something, I feel like the other has this urge to overpraise it. I like The Last Jedi, but I don't think that's a 10 out of 10 by a mile. And I feel like a lot of people were kind of overselling it to try to counter the negativity.
I suppose it's possible.
sure. I mean, if everyone's
I love
negative,
it,
then
love it personally. But yeah, it's certainly you do have that counteracting force. It's the same thing that makes it so that a game that was beloved when it comes out is getting all these think pieces about how it's actually not any good. 5 years later.
Yeah.
It's-
Or you'll get the opposite where this thing that you thought was bad was secretly good the entire time.
Because
Yeah.
we want to make a franchise out of it, because it sold pretty well.
I would unironically love to see someone try and make a Devil May Cry 2 was secretly good the entire time. I am waiting for that.
I don't think that's
'Cause I don't-
possible. I just played that
Exactly.
recently, and it is bafflingly, shockingly bad.
yes, it's terrible. That's why I'm like, I want to see someone shoot their shot. I want to see someone try because I don't think it can be done. I'd love to be proven wrong.
See, the thing is that it's not gonna be the headline Devil May Cry 2 was actually always good or something like that. It's gonna be like, I played Devil May Cry 2 and it wasn't that bad. Or like, I played Devil May Cry 2 and there was this very specific aspect that reminded me of something else and that's why I liked it.
Oh, that's weak. That's weak sauce. That's not what I'm talking
Yeah, of course
about.
that's weak. But that's always how these articles go, right?
Yeah.
It's just some very hyper-focused point of like praise that you can find in something that's awful.
If you analyze the dichotomy between Dante and Lucia, blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yeah.
no, get the fuck out of here.
And then the headline is specifically written in a way where it's like
disagree
implying
with
more
me.
praise than it should so that it can harvest a bunch of hate clicks.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of Devil May Cry 2. Not the gameplay though. I liked when he was in the little.
Ironically?
No, like I really like a lot of it, but not the gameplay. The gameplay is terrible. I like when he's in the little Italian village, and you're like jumping on the roofs. I'm like, hey, this is a fun video gamey thing. I like those enemies who are like in the cages. I think they were like skeleton enemies in giant cages. I thought.
Oh, okay. So you liked a lot of the game's ideas. You liked it conceptually, just not how it plays.
Like I said, I like a lot of
how it came
dispersed
together.
elements from it, but like it's a bad game.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
that's
even-
entirely fair. When I first started it, I'd just come off of playing Devil May Cry 1 for the first time, and that was pretty recent, and I was like, oh, I don't know, at first this feels like it, like, controls a little smoother, and then, you know, I actually had to play it, and man, I'm still just amazed by the helicopter boss. That's I feel like that has
Yeah.
to be one of the worst boss fights in the history of the medium.
I love that boss
You
fight.
could just stand in a corner and shoot.
And you can't even see it half the time, because the camera is
Yeah.
angled down at you, like, just...
Yep.
I love
Incredible.
that fight because I love the idea of like, you're just climbing up a building and now it's chasing you through the building and now you're just on top of like the Chrysler building or something. I thought that was so much fun. And because the boss is so shittily designed, you can't really die. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's quite a thing.
DMZ2 is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yep.
Devil May Cry 2 was secretly better than you thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you
that-
thought it's like complete shit. And I found
You thought it was
1%
complete
good
shit.
things.
Yeah.
it wasn't complete shit. It was just mostly shit.
Do you think The Green Knight got a lot of good critic reviews because the audience were bombing it and the critics were like, no, it's actually pretty alright. You guys just don't know.
I mean, it's been like going
No.
around in festival circles and stuff for a while, and was really highly praised.
Yeah.
Like even then, so I think it's legit on that.
It's just a genuine, like, I can't say well told, I guess, but it's a very interesting and very atmospheric movie. And like, it's difficult to understand what is actually going on, although you can somewhat follow the events, but the logic is very arcane of the world, I guess. And the characters, it's that type of movie where the characters always feel kind of off in how they react to certain things. So you're just kind of entranced by the whole thing and just watching and trying to understand what's going on. But even if you
into that.
don't understand it, there's enough like visuals and atmosphere to latch onto that it's still going to be an interesting first watch. And I just want to watch it again because I feel like there's still a lot to explore there. By the way, the main character, which I didn't even realize, played by Zuko from the Avatar movie.
What?
Dev Patel is his name.
Yeah, he was also the main character in Slumdog Millionaire back
Yeah.
in the day. He's a legit good actor.
He was
That
the
movie
best part
was
of
just
that
poison.
movie.
That was my at the end we did a movie commentary on it, and at the end I forced everyone to say something nice about the Avatar movie,
Oh gosh.
and my thing was I liked the Zuko actor because even though he didn't feel like Zuko, at least it felt like some kind of genuine performance
He was acting,
that made
at
sense.
least.
Yeah.
That performance in a better movie is a totally fine performance.
Yep.
That is as
Yeah,
good
that
a.
movie.
That's just a totally fine rendition of a character, and it was a pretty okay
Yeah.
movie. We all agreed.
Yes, it was pretty good. We all agreed.
Still waiting on that sequel.
All agreed.
I want a sequel. With
No, it
all
was
the
shit.
Returning cast in their mid-20s.
No.
But yeah, if you like experimental movies, and I would recommend Green Knight, and I would also recommend A Ghost Story. If you can sit
Cool.
through 10 minutes of a person eating a cake,
Ugh,
then it's a good movie.
no. I refuse, Boken.
You should, though.
I refuse.
That sounds like something that you'd see in what's that fucker's name? Nicholas Winding Refn?
Yeah,
That's like the kind of shit he would do.
maybe.
Uh,
Kinda, yeah. It has but he doesn't always pull that off. I mean, Drive is like one of the best movies ever, but I watched Valhalla Rising, I think that movie is called. And that was a lot of people staring into the distance, and it was fucking boring.
yeah, he's a weird filmmaker where, like, he has a good ambience, good atmosphere, but man, like, his movies often fall apart. I think The Neon Demon is also a masterpiece, but, like,
Oh,
Only-
a masterpiece, really.
I would say masterpiece. I love that movie. But
Okay, calm down.
hey, shut up. But only God Forgives. That's a movie which is like, yeah, why is nothing happening? This movie is so boring.
Yeah,
I liked Only God Forgives.
Of course you.
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't like it as much as his other movies, but I still enjoyed it. Drive was definitely better. Bronson is fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, he made
Bronson's a
Bronson.
really great film. That movie's awesome. That movie's so good. And yeah, like I agree with you. Boken Drive is fucking great.
How did you like
He's
him?
he's just a weird filmmaker.
How did you like him in Death Stranding?
I have not played Death Stranding yet.
I need to finish Death Stranding.
It's a
I really
It-
liked it, but it's also the kind of weird game that, like, when I'm playing it, I'm like, this is cool and interesting, and when I'm not playing it, I'm never like, I really need to play more Death Stranding, you know? I need to get back to it because it seems cool.
Would you say that when you're not playing it, you left it stranded?
No.
It's
Yeah,
always.
didn't they like put him in the game, but he didn't even voice his own lines?
no.
He's
it's
probably
like
not
that.
an actor, right? I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
guess.
probably the
It's
right
still weird.
decision.
No, the correct decision is not putting him in the game.
That is
True.
also true.
True.
But he's best friends with Kojima.
I mean, that is kind of cute, though. I do like that Kojima's just like, fuck all ya, I'm putting my friends in my games, and you can't stop me.
Who were we talking about? Who we put in there?
Nicholas
Refn.
Winding Refn.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I
the-
don't really know who that is, so I...
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Movie
he's
director.
a movie director.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
he directed Bronson, Drive, Valhalla Rising,
played-
Neon Demon.
He played
okay.
a dead man or whatever his name was in Death Stranding.
Yeah, okay.
Or well, he was his face. Anyways, Green Knight.
But yeah, you.
More like D Knight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's probably bad.
Uh,
Or it's
you
fine.
you also been playing Guilty Gear. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about Guilty Gear recently.
Yeah, that's why I eventually checked it out. I'm back on my fighting game bullshit. Because we finally have a game that's popular and has a good netcode.
Actually,
Unbelievable.
Pocket, it takes more skill to use bad netcode. It's deliberately designed that way.
Okay.
Does
And
this
I'm just happy
character
that we can
exist?
finally... no. That the version of that character is, well, actually, this is still playable. Don't be a whiny baby.
No, it's
That's-
still,
that's
it's still
the best
playable.
they have.
Cool. I want it to be well playable. Like, playable is not a qualifier.
And yeah, we're
actually
also
say
gonna
it has
go
bad
back
netcode.
to we're gonna go back to having offline sessions in my local scene, so I can finally play fighting games again, which is cool.
Cool.
And the game is okay. I don't know. I've made it to the highest floor now, and I don't know if that is impressive or not, because I've just been playing the dumbest character in the game and riding the dolphin, and no one can do anything about it. So I'm gonna see how I stack up against actual good players now. It's actually like I don't understand the game at all, and I found the character that lets you just press buttons, and no one can stop you. So let's see how much I can ride that out.
Just press buttons.
Yeah, or as we call it, as a technical term, an Unga Bunga character.
So, would you recommend this game for people who are like not super into fighting games, but are like mildly interested in them?
I would actually. The combo system is fairly easy to understand. There's a lot of room to optimize still, but I feel like the basic combo routes have been sanded off a lot, and like most people can get decent damage out now by just pressing a couple moves. And I don't know. A lot of the Guilty Gear is known for having really complex and difficult to master characters, but I think that has been dialed back a lot too. So now the character, it leads to some balance problems now, because now that the characters have a lot less options to work with, just the really strong options dominate the game entirely. But we're getting a balance update sometime in August, and then later this year as well. So let's hope they can make something out of it, because some of the top tier characters right now are really stupid. But it's it doesn't really. I feel like fighting game complexity doesn't really matter for people who don't understand it anyway. You can always just jump in and press buttons and try to learn the inputs. You're not gonna notice if you don't play optimized anyway, so you might as well just pick up any fighting game. The important part is that you find people to play with that are somewhat on your level, so that you don't get completely creamed and quit.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the problem with fighting games. It's finding people that you can comfortably play with that are around your skill level and have a good time playing. Because if you just like, I think this is a problem that a lot of people have with most fighting games, is that this fear of like jumping into a random match and just getting absolutely slaughtered by people who are like these fucking, training in the mountains monks that have just been like playing this game, mastering it, and just fucking like annihilating you in seconds.
I'm gonna say the ranking system is kind of interesting, because there's this giant tower that has 10 floors, or 11 floors, because the last one is the celestial floor where all the decent players are. And when I started the game, and I'm not really into anime fighters, but I started the game, I got matched into floor 6 immediately. And when I played the first game there, I realized like these people don't know what the fuck they're doing. So I think everything up until floor 9 is really just somewhat casual players who are new. And then at floor 10, people slightly understand what they're doing. So I don't think you need to, if you're a new player, you don't need to really worry about getting matched up with strong players, because all the strong players are going to be in Celestial anyway.
But by the way, what the heck is a Roman cancel?
A Roman cancel is when you press punch, kick, and slash at the same time, and then you cancel whatever you've been doing. It's actually a good system, because you always cancel with the same input, but depending on what you're doing, you get different colors of cancels. So for example, if you're canceling the recovery of a move, you're getting a purple Roman cancel. And if you cancel while you're in the active phase of the move and you've just been hitting someone, then you're getting a red Roman cancel, and that has different properties. And if you cancel while you're blocking, you're getting a yellow Roman cancel, which basically is like a V reversal in Street Fighter, and you do a little attack that gets the opponent off you, which is good in defense. And it's a lot of like depth in that system, but it's always activated with the same basic 3-button input. So that's actually a decent system to make a game easier, but still retain some depth.
So if you're like button mashing, you could accidentally like trigger the Roman cancel.
Oh, I don't know. Are you really gonna mash so hard you're hitting 3 buttons at once?
I guess.
You shouldn't do that, Daniel.
I want to mash.
Just block, okay? Here's my hint to you. Just fucking block.
No, I refuse. Can't tell me what to do, Mom.
Yeah, I guess it can happen, but you're not really at a disadvantage because you spend meter to Roman cancel. So it's not going to be that horrible.
Okay. I don't know. I might consider picking it up, but the problem is when I pick up fighting games, it's like I'll pick them up and I'm like, yeah, this is fun for like a bit, and I'll play like a day, and then I'll never go back to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the game has been simplified a lot, but the difficult inputs, are still in there, and there are more difficult inputs than in a lot of other modern fighting games. There's like half circles and then a half circle plus forward to do supers and all that shit. Mm-hmm. So they didn't really go into that. But yeah.
All right, thank you for that. I know you love fighting games, so I'm sure it was very gratifying for you to finally, stretch your fighting game legs for a bit and get that out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, sir. I know you want to do it. Just make it quick.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you gotta talk about Yu-Gi-Oh? What is it?
I'm gonna talk about Yu-Gi-Oh last. I was gonna talk about Thomas Harris first.
Okay.
Do you guys know who Thomas Harris is?
No.
Logan?
No.
He wrote the Hannibal Lecter books.
Okay.
Oh.
So yeah, I was
okay. What, have you been reading his books?
Yeah, I read them on Audible, as we say. Except Hannibal Rising, because that one is apparently garbage, and he only made it because he was contractually obligated to. They're really good.
I gotta say, Hannibal Rising is a terrible name.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, he
Hannibal Revolutions.
He only did it because he was like contractually obligated to give them another Hannibal book. And he was like, fine, but I'll make sure you never do anything with this character again. Mads Mikkelsen be damned. But they did anyways. I think actually that Hannibal, the third book, is the best one. Which is a controversial statement. People like The Red Dragon. People like Silence of the Lambs. It's not the best movie, Hannibal. Not by far, but it's probably my favorite of the books. Something interesting about these books, though, is that I think Thomas Harris is responsible more so than anyone else for this like fetishization of serial killers as like these really deep, psychologically, these wells of just deep human knowledge or whatever. In reality, most serial killers are just stupid. Right? They're not interesting because they don't. Their lack of empathy generally doesn't come from, oh, I have some deep history and trauma and whatever. It's literally just your brain is too pathetic to actually process that other people than you have a self. So I think that's kind of a bad thing that Thomas Harris did. But his books are good. So I guess I can forgive him.
Are you saying that Mindhunters has been lying to me?
Probably. But like this is a real thing where like most serial killers, most murderers, it isn't like Hannibal Lecter isn't a real character. These people are genuinely just too actually stupid, too mentally incapable to process other people existing. And that's like 99% of sociopaths. So if anybody out there is going through their 14-year-old edgy phase and you think, oh, I'm a sociopath, likely you're just a stupid person then, rather than being deep.
Hashtag not all serial killers.
Well,
I don't, but I feel like Mindhunters was actually based on actual science, like the beginnings of a scientific field that involved interviewing a lot of serial killers.
Oh,
You
yeah.
mean Mind Hunter, the Netflix show?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
That
Mind
happened.
Hunter. Not
Mindhunter,
Hunters.
fine.
You confused me.
But I never really looked into the underlying serial killers. I'm not like that's not a topic I'm particularly interested in. But
Well, like Mind Hunter, the show, it's based on like actual stuff.
yeah,
it's-
like Ed
it's not-
Kemper and whatever that.
Right, but like even the FBI agents, like they don't use the real names, but
Those guys
there was a
existed.
book written by the actual FBI agent, and that's what the show is based on. Like that guy's the book.
But like that show, again, like some of them are probably more interesting than others and have like interesting personality disorders. But Mindhunter, the show, omits the 9,000 ones who are just like just idiots.
Probably, yeah. Like the interesting serial killers that make a habit out of it, I guess, and have a system they're working with. Because Ed Kemper in the show at least is very
Very compelling.
Did we
compelling,
talk about,
but he's very proud about how he outwitted the police for so many years, and
did we
they didn't
talk
have a
about
clue.
Ed Camper on the podcast before?
No, I don't think so. I mentioned I don't know if I mentioned it, but I feel like there was one character in Monster who was looking a lot like
Kemper-esque.
Ed Kemper in Mindhunter.
Which was interesting because Monster came out years before Mindhunter came out.
Yeah.
So there is like some
Are
possibility
you
that
saying Ed
Naoki
Camper, the
Urasawa.
serial killer, stole from Monster?
No, I
No.
think Mindhunter.
No.
I think Ed Kemper just looks like that, and I assume Mindhunter copied his look, and also it was like the angles and the visual style of the interview.
Well, no, like mine. Obviously, Ed Kemper's a real guy,
Yeah,
and they picked the actor that portrayed him because he looked like him.
but then it would make sense if in Monster, if that character was also based on Ed Kemper, if it would look similar because it's a similar situation with the same character.
Right. That's what I was trying to say before. Where it's not inconceivable that Naoki Urasawa knew of Ed Kemper and based that character's likeness on him.
Did Mindhunter, when they did Ed Camper, did they talk about audiobooks at all?
Ed Kemper actually did voice some audiobooks.
He has voiced over 6,000 audiobooks.
I didn't realize it was that much. Holy
including
shit.
including the original novelizations for the Star Wars movies.
Oh
Oh,
my
whoa.
god! Wow.
Yeah.
What? That's
So
weird.
if your kid in the 70s and 80s was listening to cassette tapes of the audiobooks, that was a serial killer. And he recorded it.
Oh god.
He recorded it while he was in prison, and they went to him specifically because he had such a pleasant voice. He doesn't do them
I
anymore.
think
So
we had
weird.
that on the podcast before. That is when Ed Kemper came up.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
So there is another podcast that I listen to. I've mentioned them before, called the last podcast on the left.
See, I listen
And
to you,
they
Daniel.
have an episode dedicated to Ed Kemper. If you want to listen to that and get a more detailed
This
rundown
episode
of
is
what
de-
know done.
This
and
episode is dedicated to serial killer Ed Camper. I know what you meant, but look.
but yeah,
In loving memory.
He is still alive.
wait, did he pass away?
he's
Is he
alive.
dead?
yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
he's
say.
alive. Okay.
He
Yeah,
had
he's still around.
He had like some brain thing or heart thing, which made it he can't do audiobooks anymore. He has some physical impairment now. He got it in like 2017 or whenever. Mm-hmm.
He is pretty old now, though. He's getting up there in age.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 72.
So yeah, Thomas Harris.
So how about that
books.
Yu-Gi-Oh?
Hey, just before we do, Sam, are you there?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I see the little green audio ring flipping on and off. I didn't know if you were trying to say something or it wasn't coming through.
Yeah, no,
Anyways.
I'm sure it's just random little noises, I guess.
There's a fly on your microphone. But yeah, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Gotta catch 'em all, as they say. I need to understand Bogan and Daniel. I know Sam loves Yu-Gi-Oh! We talked about it before we started recording. He loves it.
Yeah, it sure is a thing that I know exists and have not seen an episode of.
Basically loves it. Yeah, because you're a manga exclusive, right?
Yeah, totally. That's definitely a true thing about me.
That is true. He said it himself. So I've been reading the manga. I'm up to Battle City right now, in preparation for our big Yu-Gi-Oh extravaganza. And so I just like I guys, I dipped back in. I'm back to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh now. That's who I am again. You guys remember 2 years ago or whenever I did it last time? I was piloting Invoked Shaddolls in Master Rule 4. Nobody was using the deck. It was a dead deck, they said. Nobody had thought to mix it. Now it's like an actual meta-competitive deck in Master Rule 5 format. So I can't use it anymore. Also, they banned all the good cards from the deck that I was using. So I've been looking into...
Why can't you use it anymore?
Because everyone else is using it. I don't want to use a deck that everyone else is using.
So you're that kind of low-tier hipster, huh?
No, I'm a rogue player. I don't like using the same deck as everyone else. I feel like the fun for me is making something that succeeds partly because it's well made and partly because nobody has seen it before, so they don't know how to properly counter it.
So you're a low-tier hipster.
No, I'm not a low tier. I make pretty strong decks. Like I said, I did Invoke Jadals back when Colossus was tournament legal. I don't think anybody else ever figured to do that, but it's such an obvious tech. But yeah, so they're doing, there's a new deck coming out, the branded Stigmata Fallen of Albaz deck, which I don't know if that's going to be tournament competitive, but I really like that deck because it's a lot of fusion monsters. I don't know. This is just a short little Yu-Gi-Oh! Update. I'm back in, and listeners can expect me to have more things to say about Yu-Gi-Oh! In the coming weeks.
I don't know, man. This sounds exactly like those low-tier heroes in fighting games who always play the non-viable characters. And
it's not
when-
non-viable.
when-
It's just different.
Well, but the ones that none of the top players play. Because they don't want to play top tier, so that they have an excuse when they lose.
But I don't lose.
Wait.
Generally speaking.
Oh, okay.
I have a well over 50% win rate. And like the most
Well over 50%.
The most
Damn,
com-
Acer.
the most
king.
competitive meta deck right now has an average win rate of 59%.
Wait, Acer.
Yes.
I heard you fucking say that you're like, oh, I'm going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! All the time now.
Yes?
So, you give a shit every fucking time we want to talk about fucking World of Warcraft or fighting games or
Yes.
Sopranos
Yes.
or FF14 or whatever.
Yes.
And you kick up some dirt and you're just like, "Meh." And now you're just like, oh, but I'm going to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Whatever the fuck I want. What is this?
Am I George Lucas? Oh, I'm gonna talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm gonna edit it. Edit the Star Wars movies again.
I'm a billionaire, so I can afford every Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Hey, I don't care that Magician Souls cost $110 a piece. $330. $330 for a playset of Magician Souls. And it's such a good card, but like, fuck off. If my Yu-Gi-Oh enthusiasm dies off, it's because of the terrible price support. I don't mind paying $100 for a solid deck. I do mind paying $700. Konami, goddammit.
The point is, if you get to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh every episode, then we get to talk about fucking whatever we want to talk about every episode. You can't have this double standard.
It's different. It's different, Daniel.
No, it's not
It's
different.
very different.
If I want to talk about Five Ice 14 or The Sopranos, I'm gonna fucking talk about it.
See, but the difference, Daniel, is that I feel people will turn off the podcast when you guys talk about your MMOs or Sopranos. Whereas when I talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like people will be very receptive to it.
The engagement just shoots up.
The fucking difference is, Asa, when I talk about fighting games, I try to make it accessible to people who don't play fighting games. When you talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, you just name a bunch of bullshit cards.
You were talking about purple and red cancels.
Yeah, and I told
I know I brought it up, but
I told you exactly what they do.
No!
One
I
from
know, that was
recovery,
my fault.
one
I
from
brought it up.
blocking. Like, what else am I supposed to explain there? You know what a
else?
block is.
What else was I supposed to explain?
Any of the fucking terms you just mentioned.
Sam, I need your perspective on this. Has your understanding of Yu-Gi-Oh increased at all during this conversation?
I mean, not particularly, but mostly because I don't understand enough about how the card. I've never played the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, so I don't understand enough about how it works in the first place.
Oh, well.
Oh no.
Okay,
We've made a terrible
Yes.
mistake.
So originally, Yu-Gi-Oh was just like... No, I'm not gonna deep dive into that right now. But I think Yu-Gi-Oh, of all the card
Thank you,
games,
Sam. Your contribution has been priceless.
of
Yeah,
all the competitive card games, I think Yu-Gi-Oh has probably the highest skill ceiling, but only because it has the most insanely counterintuitive set of rules. So like problem-solving card text, you know, if you have a card that says discard one card from your hand, and you have another card that says send one card from your hand, that's not the same thing.
What?
I actually know that.
Yeah, like
I
there's a if you negate an effect that discards, then you do not negate an effect that sends a card from your hand to the graveyard. It's these
Weird.
little... If your monster cannot be destroyed by card effects, it can still be sent to the graveyard by card effects. And
That doesn't seem that weird to me, to be honest.
No,
because that's the kind of logic you expect also in stuff like not competitive but complex board games, where you need to read the rules, and they're usually very language coded. Like if you see this word, that means this specific thing.
We
And then
specifically...
if you see a different rule and it doesn't use the same word, you need to understand what the difference is.
We specifically have this in Yu-Gi-Oh because it used to just be like, oh, whatever. If it sends, then it destroys. And if it destroys, it maybe negates. People weren't sure about it. So Konami just went, fuck it, and did an entire format revamp with problem-solving card text. And it made the game way better, but it also made card effects really long. So I feel like they need to clean that up some. If a card has a heart once per turn, maybe just... say heart once per turn. Maybe don't say the full, you can only activate this effect of blobbity bloobity once per turn. Anyways. That's Yu-Gi-Oh talk for this week. I decided to go easy on you because I'm still trying to become friends with Sam. I don't want him running away screaming right away.
You're
Well, I
trying to
appreciate
build
the
up his
consideration.
constitution. Anyways, I think we're going to take a quick break for now, and then we're going to
No,
reconvene
wait, actually.
and discuss.
One thing,
What?
Bogan.
What?
Bogan,
What?
Bogan,
What?
Bogan.
No. What?
You will love Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0 because it's the only Yu-Gi-Oh! Season, the only arc where they actually go to high school.
That's not fucking true. What about Yu-Gi-Oh! GX or whatever
No,
it's
that's not.
called?
That's a different. I'm talking about the original series. Also, that's
I thought
not
they
high
went to high
school.
school in the
That's not
original
high
series.
school. That's Duel Academy, Boken. That's different.
That's totally a fucking high school.
No.
It's a high school. It's a high school with card flavoring.
No.
By the way, how good am I that I knew that's Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, huh?
You better get your game on, St. Truesdale.
What's the other one? Triple D's? Is that the one with the
5Ds, you
motorcycles?
You fucking Ingrid.
5D.
Idiot. 5Ds is a masterpiece.
5Ds.
It is really good. Daniel, I'm telling you, if you watch it with subtitles, you would probably enjoy it. And if you could appreciate that it's about card games. It's a good fucking story. Also, Arc 5
Press
is
X
pretty
for
good.
doubt.
It doesn't start out as good though. Zexal, I haven't ever finished. Reigns, I liked it, but it was also kind of boring. Now Sevens is going on. Have not. What's that?
Okay, it's time for a break.
It's time for a break. We'll be right back, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
We're back to talk about some stuff, some games with the good narratives that we like, and we're going to talk about why we like them and why we think they're good and why they're our favorites, or at least among our favorites.
Among Us. I see what you did there, Daniel.
Oh no. No, okay.
Yeah, my
And have
personal
you-
favorite game story is the video game narrative is the time that one Among Us guy killed the other one.
Oh, you mean the 200 IQ
Yes.
play?
Yeah, sure, that one. Makes me cry every time.
I'm sure there's at least one video essay out there that talks about the emerging storytelling of Among Us.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
For sure.
For sure. I would not be surprised. So, all right. Boken, do you want to start first, or would you rather someone else go first?
Okay, so how many games do I get to pick?
One.
Okay.
I don't want to be here forever.
It
How
has
are we
to be
doing
a
this?
minimum. It has to be a minimum of one, but if you want to throw in another one,
Yeah, I don't care about the minimum.
minimum of one.
Yeah, I don't care about
You're
the minimum.
not doing
I care
5
about
games.
the
Just do
maximum.
one, Bogan. We'll all do one, and then you'll maybe circle back to you if we have time.
Okay. If you want to throw, if you want to throw in a couple
Daniel, what
more,
are you
I'm not
doing?
gonna fight you
What are you
on
doing,
it.
Daniel?
But but you
I'm
can't.
Maybe
I'm-
one in detail and then like a quick mention of a few others if you want.
I'm mostly kidding, but I think I of course have a couple of games with stories I really like, but there are some games that have just really good stories, and then there are other games that have good stories that use the medium well, you know. And I guess
is
the
true.
latter ones would be the ones we talk about. Because the first one would be Legacy of Kain, for example. That's just a great time travel story, but the gameplay doesn't matter, really.
Well, okay, but that's a interesting choice because you're talking about the series as a whole, because like you can't really just pick one game
No,
from the series.
You can't.
From what series?
Legacy of
Legacy
Kain.
of Kain.
Oh.
I need to play those. I have not.
Oh, they're so
should.
good. You would love them.
I also need to play those.
But that's
Okay, but-
that's just a really well told story, all in
Yeah.
all, and it's not a story that utilizes the gameplay to enhance a game that utilizes the gameplay to enhance the story in any way. So
Yeah, it's kind of like Yakuza in that sense, where like now it's game time, now it's story time. And they're kind of like just these two separate things, and never shall the two shall touch.
Yeah.
It's
And I guess
the
that
old oil and water metaphor.
Yeah, that's a pretty common format, I feel like, and for that matter, it doesn't always have to be 100%. Like I usually put Final Fantasy games in that category because of the the way that the battles work. But there are also a lot of times that it does actually like utilize the battles as narrative moments and do like other things, not gameplay specifically, but that allow your interactivity to be like part of the story being told.
The Nibelheim flashback.
Mm-hmm.
When Sephiroth 1 hits everything.
Yeah. Yep, that, and of course the battle after the famous character death that I'm sure I can spoil because everyone knows, but I'm still not gonna out of principle.
Aerith.
The moment where like in the ruins of the thing where Cloud like has to give the materia and like it lets you try not to, but you can't, stuff like that. Like there are always ways that games that separate gameplay and narrative can like still do interesting things. Just depends on whether they do. Sorry, I didn't mean to get into a big Final Fantasy VII.
No, it's fine. One thing I always thought was kind of weird, though, during that moment where, like, after the big moment with the character that passes on, you have, like, a boss fight, like, right after that. And I always thought that was kind of weird. I'm like, shouldn't you give the player, like, time to, like, think about what just happened? And you're just kind of thrown into this boss fight, and
yeah, but it keeps the character's theme playing the whole time. So I guess for me at least, it functioned as that effectively. Like it put me into a situation where I had to act, but it also kept my thoughts on what just happened. So
yeah,
like, it worked all right for me. But I get what you're saying.
No, yeah, I'm conflicted about it. I'm not saying it's like it was bad necessarily, but like. I guess in a way it kind of works in the sense of like it's supposed to make you feel like, oh shit, I have to like fight this thing, but then I'm mourning, what just happened, but then okay, I got to do this right now, and it is kind of like a weird emotional position to put the player in, and I guess in that sense it is actually well executed.
Yeah, in any case, it certainly is an example of a time when a game that separates gameplay and narrative, generally speaking, does involve the two of them in that instance, whether for good or ill,
Bogan, was Final Fantasy VII your pick? It is now.
No.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead and talk more about Legacy. I didn't mean to.
Well, no,
I meant to comment on the concept you were talking about, not to derail it to a different game. So,
please don't apologize for derailing. It's totally cool. We do it all the time.
My point was more that I guess we would or should talk more about games that are not like Legacy of Kain in this segment, right?
I mean, we could talk about whatever game you want.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be. Yeah, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Game with a good story that means something to you, it's whatever that means.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but I'm going to pick a game that actually has a good gameplay element that works with the story. I'm going to go with Soma.
Yeah. I really need to play that.
Okay, well, I guess I can't spoil too much then, but...
It's fine, Bogan. I've played Soma. You can spoil.
Yeah, I know you have. It's a difficult game to talk about, but it's a sci-fi story that uses the concept of storing your mind or your memory or your personality and then transplanting it into other bodies. And you're basically this character that explores this underwater facility where they have been using that technology, and that is also like I think the world is ending, right? And they're trying to preserve humanity with this technology by just saving the data of all the minds that are still there, I guess. And you are a guy who has been, well, I don't want to spoil it, but you're a guy from our time that has been transported into the future through some happenstance. And so your character is completely unfamiliar with this technology, and at certain times within the story, things happen, and your character literally can't comprehend the ramifications of what is happening with the mind
you as the
transplant.
player are a couple of steps ahead of the character you're playing as.
Yeah,
Interesting.
you're kind of ahead, but also, and this is the interesting part, I also made a video on this, is you are limited to the perspective of the main character that you're playing. And the ramifications of copying a mind and putting it into another body is not compatible with just the first-person perspective of a video game. And it leads to really interesting clashes at certain points. And, that's how we would react in those situations. And we couldn't comprehend it either. It leads to some really cool twists that just because you can only see the world and the story from one perspective, it puts you into situations that are really just existential when you start to think about what just happened. And it's a great story, like a really, really good sci-fi story. It has some weak points, but those don't really matter to me. And also has some really cool puzzles that utilize the mind technology, where you basically awaken the memories or the personality of some other guy inside a simulation, a computer simulation. And then you talk to that person and you try to get them to do something. And you fail a couple times, but you just reload their mind. And you start at the beginning, which is really fucked up. And you just trial and error your way by giving them certain lines and stimulants until they do what you want them to do without freaking out. It's you basically you're talking to a fucking person, but it's also a computer program, and you can just restart that person. And that is such a cool, as a puzzle, it's a fun gameplay idea, and also as a storytelling device, it's really cool to think about. And
That's
Soma, one of my favorite game stories, ever, for sure.
If I can ask, is would the game, because in concept, I really love the whole there are monsters and you have to hide from them because you can't fight them thing. I think it's quite scary and effective. In practice, it ends up freezing me and making a game take forever to beat because I get scared because I'm a wimp. Would you say that the experience is still do you think that doing the mode where it makes it so that I don't have to hide from the monsters, is that does that really harm the experience, or does it still kind of keep the core of what the game is doing and work well?
I think the monsters are somewhat disconnected, and they're just there because it's a horror game. I don't know if Asa would agree with me on that. I feel like the parts where you hide from the monsters don't really matter to the narrative at all. And I heard from some people that just the mode where you can walk past these monsters and they're just these empty husks that are just walking around these facilities and do nothing, that in its own way is also a very haunting experience.
Yeah.
And you don't need to play through the horror shit.
All right, cool. Because, I was definitely considering, because I did start it at some point, but, I always run into that problem with these kinds of things where
me
just
too,
take forever to
absolutely.
progress. And so I was considering just doing that, but didn't want to cripple the experience,
I feel like
that was great.
I feel like with that you can sort of I don't think they're quite disconnected, because I think the idea of self-preservation kind of ties into the core theme of the game, but I think if you can just headcanon that into oh, that's what the character would be feeling here, but I'm not going to play that because I'm a wimp or whatever. I think you can still you get what they're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I guess as long as they're present, it sort of gets the idea across whether you have to hide from them or not. So, all right, cool.
Whenever I think of those monster sections, the one quote from Yahtzee Croshaw from Zero Punctuation comes into my mind, where he complains that how unreasonable it is to have a horror monster section where you're supposed to avoid the monster, but you're also not allowed to even look at the monster to check out where the fuck it is.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of when you don't have like actual full-on stealth systems in place and such. It just kind of gets. Yeah.
I love that.
I feel like
It's
it's
a
works
fair critique.
sometimes in more like scripted scenarios, I guess. Like the I don't know if any of y'all have played Resident Evil Village, but that
Not yet.
super terrifying bit in like the puppet house or whatever. I won't spoil it for you since not everyone here has, because it's horrifying. But like there are bits where you have to hide, but it's pretty scripted, you know, like once you get into a hiding place, you just have to kind of wait for it to be done and then leave. And that's not as like mechanically interesting, I suppose, but it's a decent way to make sure that, you know, the scary thing that's happening doesn't overstay its welcome, and you can, you know, you can go after that instead of
like
just
the
hiding
system
in there
in
hoping that
Amnesia.
maybe it isn't looking at you at the moment.
I like the system in Amnesia,
like what, sorry?
where the system they have in Amnesia, where again you can't look at the enemy because it'll reduce your sanity and yada yada yada. But if an enemy gets you, the enemy will just you won't encounter it again. They'll despawn it.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize it did that.
I think it does
That's
that.
cool.
I don't know if it does it to every enemy. I think it does it though. And also, I don't remember if this is true. It's been years since I played it, but I think it can also. I think if it doesn't despawn them, it changes them into illusions, so they'll chase you, but the moment they're about to get you, they'll just disappear into smoke.
Huh. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to... Because, you know, one of the things that does tend to lower the whole scary illusion in horror games for me is if it gets to a point of, like, frustration. If it turns into just trying to get through instead of, you know, being scared of the thing that's happening, then it's not scary anymore. It's just this annoying thing that you have to deal with. So I think that's a really cool way, actually, to, you know... To just make it so that so that it doesn't overstay that welcome. It doesn't get not scary. That's good.
Cool. Acer,
Yeah.
what is your pick?
I thought I'd do Majora's Mask. First of all, I didn't think we were gonna do it this way. I thought the format was gonna be a bit different, so I just decided on Majora's Mask a few minutes ago. I love that game. I love the idea of it's all contextualized with gameplay. Like, what is the big threat? The moon. Okay, what are the ramifications for that? Well, the world ends, or you die, yada yada yada. But also, like, you have to start the entire narrative is written around that as a framing device rather than just your average. Oh, you talk to characters because they're there, and you get to see that arc of every character play over and over and over again. So I think that's a great example of a game that uses it being a game very efficiently. No?
Yeah, Majora's
Nobody's
Mask
gonna
is
say anything?
is a good one. Oh no, I'm agreeing. Like
Yeah.
Zelda's a weird one for me, just in general as a series. Majora's Mask is probably my favorite just because of its narrative elements, even though it is not the one that I've had the most fun with. That is, of course, Breath of the Wild. But Majora's Mask is a really fascinating one. And you're right about the way that, like, all of your interactions are driven by that, and I think that it helps for a Zelda game to... I feel like so often, even the narratively strong ones fall into this... this structure
Formula.
where, like, yeah, we're, you know, like, oh, well, we need 4 gems, and then we're gonna get them, and something's gonna go wrong, and now we need 4 other things, and, you know, like, the threat feels like some sort of far-off thing that you'll deal with once you collect all of the things, and it can just kind of stay in the background most of the time until then. So for Majora's Mask to structure itself in a way where it's a constant thing that's always hovering over you, and, you know, you have to reset often or it's going to actually come, you know, like, it's a really... I think it's a really clever way to sort of get around one of the sort of narrative weaknesses of the Zelda formula, and it works really, really well. It's also just atmospherically fascinating. It's a very sort of dark and fascinating game. I'm saying fascinating a lot, but it's... It's good.
It's
is what I'm
it's
saying. I like it.
melancholy.
That's a much better word.
Yeah. Especially in a way that Twilight Princess isn't, and not to shit on Twilight Princess because I think it's a pretty solid game, but like Twilight Princess, I felt like was trying a bit too hard almost to be like the mature Zelda, while Majora's Mask felt like it more effortlessly was just like this kind of morose game. But it wasn't to the point of just like crushing despair. It still had like a sense of hopefulness to it, but there was still just a dark lining to a lot of what happened in that game.
Yeah.
And it's very thought provoking. It's arguably the most thought provoking of any Zelda game for that reason.
I would say that a big difference between Twilight Princess and Majora. Again, Majora's Mask is way more directed by the game you're playing rather than the cutscenes you're watching.
Right.
And I would also see people over the years. People have sort of lost the enthusiasm for Ocarina of Time, kind of as time has gone on. I think Ocarina of Time totally holds up. I don't think it's as good as Majora's Mask, but like this idea of a game about nostalgia, where you're constantly going back and forwards in time, and it's that's the point rather than collecting things. I think that's so cool. Another thing about Majora's Mask that I really appreciate is that it very wisely does away with the over consistency with its rules. So like if you pick up a mask, you can keep the mask. You're not going to have to pick that up every time because that would play terribly. Another one is bosses. When you defeat them, isn't it just in the 3DS remake that you can refight them?
Oh gosh, I think so. That is the version I played, but it's been a while.
I
don't remember.
I really like the 3DS remake. But yeah, that it makes a lot of concessions to playing well rather than being inherently consistent, because like I don't care about internal consistency that much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very roguelike kind of thing in a lot of ways. You know, you have certain elements that stick that stay the way they are even after you reset time, and certain elements that you need to redo again. It's
yeah.
I don't know, it works. I know a lot of people get weirded out by the doing some things over again element of it, but I think it's good. But then I also liked Phantom Hourglass despite similar complaints, so maybe I'm just weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember talking to someone complaining about the not even just like the redoing things in Majora's Mask, but just feeling like you didn't have enough time to do things. Like they felt like the game stressed them out because they felt like they were constantly being rushed. And I kind of get that. I mean, I feel like if you use like the song of was it like Double Time or something? No, I think that one skips forward time. There's a song that you can play.
Time?
Yeah, there's a song that you can play that slows down the clock, and it's like it gives you way more time to do things. And I felt like that made it it gave you a pretty comfortable amount of time to do things in the game. But they still felt that like sense of anxiety, like they just didn't like it. And
See, on one hand, it's kind of anxiety inducing, and given we're talking about Majora's Mask, I feel like that is very much intentional. But also,
Yes.
like, for me personally, I don't mind, because I also tend to get stressed out like that, but when it's a short, because, you know, how long is the loop in Majora's Mask? Like
4 minutes, something like that.
Okay, yeah, see, that's not, and then it resets, and you get to keep doing things, and you keep certain progress and stuff like that. It stresses me out in games like Pikmin or Dead Rising, where I could play the entire game, like however many hours that is, and if I don't do certain things in time, it's just going to be wasted effort.
Yeah.
Like, that stresses me out. But when it's just a matter of, I mean, you know, stuff like Majora's Mask or Outer Wilds, you know, it's a short enough loop. And the point is to loop back and forth again, that, like, you know...
It's also, with
that's fine.
With Majora's Mask, I think a lot of people See, I don't know if this is a problem with. I think that may be a problem with how the game presents itself. You're not supposed to do everything in your first round. Like you're supposed to go
Right.
through many loops, and if you don't get that immediately, you can very easily overinvest into trying to figure out every narrative and not getting anywhere. But then you have stuff like the Bomber's Notebook that like every increment of progress you make on that, you get to keep that. So like the narrative, you still get to it's not, your efforts aren't wasted. And I don't know if people register that. I think if more people registered that earlier on, they probably wouldn't get as anxious because, again, I think it's just the way the game doesn't convey to some people properly that you're supposed to do this very, very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that brings up like kind of an interesting question though, in regards to like how the timelines work, because like let's say, you know, because it's impossible to do everything in a single like cycle.
Yeah.
So by the end of the game, when you're like ready, like okay, let's beat the game. Even though you may have like a Bomber's Notebook that has like everything completed on that specific timeline, a lot of those are unresolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting, and because like all the other timelines in which you did complete those tasks, the Terminus still gets destroyed. Like you as Link may have, rewinded yourself back to the starting point, but like that's kind of like just him like blipping himself out of that timeline and just appearing on a different one. But that timeline that you blipped out of still keeps going, and it's a kind of like a harrowing thing to think about.
Yeah.
Like you could ideally only save like one timeline, and in that one timeline, the majority of the problems that you solved in other timelines are going to remain just as they are.
Yeah.
Is Link the Homura of Majora's Mask?
Yes. Yes, Boken.
Another thing very quickly
That's
that
my
I like,
contribution to this topic.
another quick thing that I like about Majora's Mask, no Princess Zelda, no Ganon. People
Yes.
and,
Yeah.
like, don't take the wrong message from what I'm about to say, but the people who want Zelda to be a playable character, I hate that, because she is such an uninteresting part of the Zelda universe that I don't want her in the games at all. I like Majora's Mask so much because it's its own ideas, it's new characters, it's a new threat, and I feel like people are so over invested on the development side. On you have Link save Zelda, and you have Ganon. It's such a boring formula to me.
Has it ever been answered in some interview why the fuck they called it The Legend of Zelda initially?
Probably.
I mean, it's really not about Link. There's a reason why Link doesn't talk. It's not really
It's not about
Link.
Zelda, though.
It is, though.
No.
You're always saving her.
Okay, so
Because
how is
she's
it
the
about her
important one.
then, but not about Link?
No, we don't call it Super Peach Brothers. Even though you're always saving Peach.
Yeah, I feel like it makes enough sense, honestly, in terms of, like, she's the one that you're trying to save. It's always still, like, I am personally on the side of Zelda should have more agency, or be playable. I don't know, like, it's all trying to solve the same problem, right? That she's, like, an uninteresting part of the universe because they refuse to let her matter, like, at all.
I think
The closest they came was Wind Waker, in which she was super cool and amazing, and then they're like, oh,
Yeah.
actually, you're Zelda, so you have to wear a dress and sit over here now. Like,
Yeah,
there's the
No,
worst.
my point is more. My point is
like-
more that they, of course, when they made the first game, they didn't plan out this entire thing, right? But I don't even know why they would call the first game The Legend of Zelda.
I think because you say like, oh, it's not Super Peach sisters. Well, in the Super Mario games, like Peach is literally just exists just to be saved. While in the Zelda games, like Zelda's significance to the world is not the same as Peach's. Like
Sure.
Peach is literally just, yeah, she's just a princess and you got to save her. While Zelda has a lot more agency in what she does, Zelda also generally takes itself more seriously than Mario does. So the significance that Zelda has on her kingdom is made more apparent. Like Peach, it's just like whatever. Like what even is the Mushroom Kingdom? I don't know. At least with Hyrule, it feels like a real place, and it feels like there's actual people that you can talk to, and it feels like a lived-in world. And Zelda feels like an important part of that world. There's more effort put into the lore, and there's more effort put into like the significance that these characters have within this world compared to Mario Brothers, where it doesn't really matter. It's all just merely an excuse for the gameplay. And to be fair, like that's kind of the case in Zelda too. It's not like the story in Zelda is like super, super important, but it is, I think we can at least agree, more important in Zelda compared to Mario.
Just quickly,
like conceptually at least, yeah.
Yeah, quickly going back,
Sure.
I think Ocarina of Time Zelda is the most interesting one. Because because you get to meet her when she's a kid and when she's a grown up, and like she has actual character development. She like you have Sheik in there, so she has a life, that one. And
Yeah, I mean there is something interesting about like whoa, 7 years later and she's like dressed up as a ninja. What's that about?
I don't know. I guess I'm one of those people who was disappointed in general by Ocarina of Time's character stuff. I'm still really annoyed that like I found out that Sari is one of the mages or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, that'll be interesting. There was such a nice little scene with her before. This will be cool. And then I get to her and she's like, hey Link, cool, glad you're doing this. This is important anyway. Bye. And I'm like, okay, fine, I guess, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Zelda tends to be disappointing to me on a narrative level, and I know that there are defenders of Ocarina of Time in that sense, but I didn't see it much personally. I feel like there's a lot of interesting subtext and meaning and stuff in it, but in terms of the like, direct story and character stuff, it didn't really do much for me.
it's
It has
Majora's
more
Mask.
interesting concepts.
Yes, that's definitely, yeah. That's why Majora's Mask is my favorite, despite not being the one that I like found most entertaining or whatever, because it is pretty definitely the most narratively interesting. It's also one of the reasons I like Phantom Hourglass, because Linebeck has an honest-to-God character arc. It's simple, but it's fun and it works, and that's more than I can say for most like Zelda characters. So,
Yeah, I know how you feel. That's how I feel about Tales of the Abyss from the Tales series, where like yes, there are other Tales games that are like more fun to play, but like I feel that Tales of the Abyss has like so much more interesting things to say compared to most other Tales games. Not to shit on the stories of other Tales games. I think they're generally very good, but like Tales of the Abyss in particular, I think really stands out as like one of the best written, and it's my favorite as a result, despite the fact that like there are other games in the series I'd much rather play as a game.
Yeah.
Acer, anything else to say about Majora's Mask?
Nah.
Okay. I guess I'll go and then you can go last, Sam. Is that okay?
yeah, that's fine.
Alrighty. So I was actually kind of struggling with what game I would pick.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, oh, I could talk about Final Fantasy 9. I could talk about Silent Hill 2. I just mentioned it, Tales of the Abyss. But I settled on Nier Replicant.
Ooh. Good choice.
And I was also debating on whether I should bring up Nier Automata as well, because shit, I like them both a lot for different reasons, but I'm gonna stick with Replicant because I've sat on that one a lot longer compared to Automata. My mind has had much more time to digest that game compared to Automata. Although Automata is still great, but yeah, Near Replicant is a really fascinating story in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think there is a ton of like gameplay and narrative convergence here, but there is some of it, particularly in like how you get like the multiple endings.
Yeah.
Although I guess that's more tedious than anything else because you have to like replay the last third like a bunch of times and get all the fucking weapons. God, Yoko Taro is such a fucking shit.
Yeah, that is an element that was definitely done better in Automata. Yeah.
Yeah, much better. I remember someone complaining like, "Oh, I can't believe they didn't fix that in the Near Replicant remake," and I was like, "You are a fool if you honestly thought Yoko Taro would fix that. You do not understand Yoko Taro. If you actually thought he would fix that, no,
Yep.
that was never gonna happen." But I was thinking about why I preferred the story in Replicant compared to Automata, and I think the best way to explain it is a Replicant kind of hits me more emotionally compared to Automata. Automata, I appreciate more on like an intellectual level. Like I really love the ideas that it dives into and how profound it is, and the things it has to say about like the idea of of souls and of being self-conscious and these robots, do they have souls? And like it's really fascinating. But like I think just like on a pure, just raw gut emotional, like instinctual feeling, like Near Replicant just hits me harder. And I think a lot of that has to do with the relationship between the main character and his daughter slash sister. It's and like I mentioned this on another episode, but like playing the original version and then playing Replicant, it's like, wow, they really did intend for this to be just for the brother, and the father was just like an afterthought.
Yep.
There was a bunch of little things in the story that just didn't really make that much sense, that suddenly when I'm playing Near Replicant, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. like why are all these villagers like helping out this like 40-year-old man, like giving him little odd jobs? Like, get a job, you bum. And a bunch of other like little things, like Emil having a crush. Like I like, sure, he could still conceivably have a crush on like old man Near with his melty face, but like it makes a lot more sense that Emil would have a crush on brother Near, who's like this very attractive young man. But getting outside of like stuff like that, I think one of the main goals of the story was to kind of show people the folly of not trying to see things from multiple perspectives, and how easy it is to kind of tunnel vision yourself into just thinking that you're correct because you're getting a lot of reinforcement from everyone else around you. Like the main character for a lot of the story thinks that he's doing the right thing, and everyone else is just like, yeah, go for it, kill them shades, they suck, you're doing the right thing. Only to find out that like by the end of the story, I'm not going to spoil it, but like there's you understand more about like the nature of what you have been doing throughout the game, and I think where the convergence between gameplay and story work really well is when you're doing a second playthrough and you are still playing the game normally, but now you're giving context for a lot of stuff that you had been doing, and you're still being forced to do those things the same way, now with the knowledge that you were wrong.
Yeah.
Like you thought one way because that was all that was presented to you, because you didn't make the conscious decision to even think about things in a different perspective. But now the game is forcing you to see, like, no. You know, you didn't know any of this that was happening behind the scenes, and now you do, but you still need to kill this thing.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a very underappreciated way to tie story and gameplay together. Like, so often we talk about, you know, telling a story through gameplay as though the gameplay has to be like a complex metaphor for what's going on in the story or whatever. And like, no, it doesn't really have to be that. Sometimes you can just make the player do something that they don't want to, but that the character they're playing would still do. You know, like that dissonance in and of itself is something that I think adds weight to what's happening in a video game in a way that a linear medium wouldn't. And,
Yes.
you know, like,
Can I get a Spec Ops The Line in the chat?
Oh, man, yes. I mean, that's my most recent video is Spec Ops The Line, and absolutely, yes, it does some good shit on that front.
Yeah. We did a spoiler cast on Spec Ops recently as well.
That's like 8 months ago.
Yeah, it's
It's
got its detractors now, but I still think they're wrong. I think it's great.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about it back then, but it like a lot of the complaints of like, well, the game makes you be a bad guy. Yeah, almost like that's the fucking point of the game, jackass.
I know, right? Like, yeah. Yeah, that's a point I made in my video too. Like, you shouldn't. If the game was all like, oh, well, you know, you can do this moral thing, so that way you can be a good, upright, moral, like, conqueror of this disaster zone. Like, no, of course not. Like, it would be so... It would completely gut everything it's trying to do if it just let you be a good guy while doing this. The point is that you're not and you can't be, and the fact that you went in expecting you would be is maybe something worth examining. Like...
Yes.
Yeah, it's...
For the record, I was the only one who read Heart of Darkness for that episode. There were 4 of us. I was the only one who read it.
Yeah, I read Heart of Darkness and watched Apocalypse Now for my video because you kind of have to if you're really wanting to go deep into it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Hey, I watched Apocalypse Now. It was good. It was great, actually.
Yeah, interesting movie.
It's pretty good. It was light.
But in any case, point is, I get what you're saying about how, you know, making the player do something, but giving them context to realize that maybe they shouldn't be is good. Yeah,
and I do think that the reaction that a lot of people have is very telling, and that like, no, why are you telling me I'm bad though? You know?
Yeah.
And it's like that reaction I think is interesting because, you know, I don't think either Spec Ops or Nier are intentionally. Maybe I mean I can't presume to know what the intentions of the creators are, but at the very least, the way it's coded in both games, I don't think either of them are coming out pointing the finger at the player and saying you are bad. They are merely presenting these situations in both games, and they want you to think about it. I think more, Yoko Taro in a GDC conference said that the game itself isn't important. The way the game makes you feel is what's important. And that's something that's always stuck with me. And I think that's really exemplified in Nier. And I think he really succeeds in that with this game because it does make you feel something. Now, whether that's positive, negative, that's up to you to decide. But the fact that the game elicits these feelings, I think that's fascinating. And I think that it's doing something right by being able to do that.
Yeah.
And I think, same with Spec Ops, where I think people need to get over this idea that like the game is criticizing them. Again, I think it's more so that the game just wants you to kind of take a step back and think about what do these feelings mean?
Yeah. It's not criticizing your actions that the game made you do. It's criticizing your expectations and how you're thinking about it. And that's an extremely important distinction that I feel like a lot of people just miss.
I did watch your video beforehand, Sam, on Last of Us 2. And like that is
similar.
That is a game that has
like
been brought up, the guilt tripping motif and all that. And it's like you also made the point that just most games put the player at the center of the universe, and so a lot of people just are used to I myself am the point of this game, and so when something bad happens and it reflects bad on me, suddenly I need to feel offended.
Right.
And it's a very narrow way to watch any media.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to see more games do this. Obviously not in the exact same way, but like I think it's good to explore these different avenues for storytelling in order to elicit these different feelings, because it shows the strengths of video games as a medium, and where we have to deal with these conflicts, and we have to really kind of self-analyze and really dig deep and really think about like, okay, why do I feel this way?
Yeah. And honestly, I think the way that we engage with that in our games is going to be, like, in the long term, something that we can look back on and see a bit of a progression. Like, even just from games like Spec Ops or Replicant, which pull this, sort of bait and switch almost. Like, start off like, you're the good guy doing good things, and then eventually sort of turn that into, I don't know, this was pretty messed up, actually. Like, they take your expectations and play off of them, whereas you can even see a difference in Automata, which, I won't get too far into, but, like, it doesn't really do that. Like, from the beginning, it's like, hey, this is more complicated than these characters think, and then it spends the rest of the game, like, exploring that and thinking about that, because between those two games, it knows it can't pull the same thing twice, and that as more people do actually start thinking about their games, that bait and switch approach isn't going to work as well on them, and so you have to start exploring it in different ways. And I don't know, I'd like to think that the way that we approach these concepts of surprising the player by eschewing expectations of game design and game narrative design and stuff, that that's going to change and evolve, and we're going to see the way that these stories are told change as we start thinking more about them as, a broad gamer audience. And it's good. Nier is good.
I'm glad you agree that Nier's good. So I could keep talking about it because I love it, but I'm gonna let you take the stage. Sam, what is your pick?
Well, I was actually having trouble picking between two games, but one of them is Automata, and I figure we've talked about Nier enough, and also, frankly, it's hard to talk about why Automata is so. That game is extremely powerful and important to me, but it's really hard to talk about why without talking about the ending, like the ending of it, which is one of my favorite moments in all of video games. So, like,
me too.
And I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't.
With you.
Yeah, so like I don't. It's hard to do that without talking about that. So I'm just not going to, which means I'm going to talk about a kind of a problematic fave, I guess, but nonetheless, Persona 4.
Why is that problematic?
Persona games have a lot of internalized homophobia in them. And transphobia. Like, they're not amazing at it. I do think that...
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So, there are elements of it that are a problem, but I still think a lot of it... I still think a lot of it holds up really well. I mean, the game on its face is basically just a JRPG where you're, like, solving murder mysteries in this little town, and it's got a bunch of...
Not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I just want to say, I think you shouldn't feel bad for it being a favorite, even though it has these problematic elements, because, like, it's... because we still acknowledge them, and we can realize, like, it's got these issues, but, like, it still has so much else about it that's so good, and it is worth talking about. So
Yeah,
anyway.
it's like, a famed person who hates video games and doesn't want anyone to like any of them for any reason. Anita Sarkeesian says we can still enjoy something and appreciate it while still recognizing its more pernicious elements. So, like, that quote that a lot of people just tend to ignore that she ever said. So, yeah, no, I don't feel bad about it. Just, it's something worth acknowledging, I guess. But, yeah, the thing that really blew me away when I first played this game is just the basic methodology for its character development, where it will introduce a character and sort of hint at these struggles that they're going through, and then put them into a world where stereotypical, like a couple like kind of a Flanderization of them, I guess, right? Like this character, but with the things that they don't like about themselves or the things that they struggle with, sort of turned up to 11. This copy of them will confront them, and by refusing to acknowledge that this is part of who they are, they just make it more powerful, and they have to confront this part of themselves and then accept that it is actually, part of themselves, that it's a meaningful element of who they are and what they want and how they see the world and themselves, and that is the only way that they can move forward. So every single character arc in that game starts off with this burst of confronting, like, their deepest, most intimate fears and concerns about and ideas about themselves, and then it moves on to further develop them from there into the person that they become with this new knowledge of who they are. And, like, honestly, a lot of the reason that I love the game as much as I do is just because that character development device works so well that I feel such a connection to this cast. Like, there's an element of this game that's legitimately, like, nostalgia for a group of friends or something. Like, Persona 4 feels like home to me in a lot of ways, just because I love all of these people so much.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, like, that's a thing that it did, that Persona 5 is a better game in the vast majority of respects, but it did not do this for me. I felt like its character work was a bit weaker, and whereas Persona 4 just made me so invested in all of these people and their lives and their struggles, and I just love them all very much. And sorry, what?
I once read the critique, and I totally agree with that, is Persona 4 feels like a group of friends hanging out. Persona 5 feels like a group of individuals who are all friends with a main character hanging out.
Yeah.
I can definitely, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's an element, because, like, Persona games have also this, like, big story that's sort of, like, playing off of Jungian psychology ideas to talk about, like, larger issues in society, right? And I do think that Persona 5 actually probably does a better job with that. I think that its concepts of, well, I mean, it came out in, 2016 or 2017, right? And was, like, the perfect game for that particular moment in American history, at least, of, like, being frustrated at a world that isn't working and is making life difficult for a lot of people and punishing people who don't deserve it, but is kept that way by a bunch of rich, powerful adults who want to maintain their power instead of actually making life better for anyone. Like, it was very prescient for the time it came out, and that the way that it handles that, like, meta narrative of it is very good. But, it lost a lot of the personal elements that made Persona 4 such a just, like, personally affecting story for me.
Yeah.
And
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I love seeing... I love big, like, blockbuster games that deal with concepts like, the fate of the world or whatever, but it's so rare, and it's more common now, especially in the indie scene, but, like, it's less common that you see games that are dealing with things like bad self-image, jealousy over friends, discomfort with your perceived sexuality, things like that. Just like little little things that we as humans deal with on a daily basis. It's one of the reasons I like The World Ends With You too. You know, like when it came out, the idea of a video game that has a major character arc about self-image is just like, that's just not a thing that happened a lot. And Persona 4 has some elements in how it handles that sort of thing, especially in regards to sexuality and gender and stuff that aren't I feel like we're maybe a bit ahead of their time but haven't aged well. But it's still, I don't know. All of these characters were dealt with in ways that I think really regarded who they were as people and their struggles and trying to accept as who they are as they figure out who they are. And it just, I don't know, it worked really well for me. I felt like it was an ingenious device for character development that it used, and it impacted me a lot, and I really just fell in love with it.
I agree. Yeah, and I was thinking about the kind of like the difference between how like Persona 5 and 4's characters were handled, and I think part of the problem compared them is in Persona 5, it takes place in kind of like a bigger city, and the characters do feel a bit more like disparate from each other, while compared to Persona 4, it has that very like rural sort of like cozy feeling and vibe to it. And I think that really helped in making all the characters feel closer. And I don't think this was a problem in Persona 3 either, because all of them were living in the same dorm. And some of those characters, like, all the characters that were already living in the dorm already knew each other before the main character walked in. So I felt like they had their own history. And the fact that all of them were living in the same dorm, I think added to like a sense of intimacy to their relationships. And again, I agree that like somewhere along the way with Persona 5, even though Persona 5 is still pretty solid, it did lose some of these elements that were a lot stronger in Persona 4, and in particular how the characters were handled.
Yeah, because the infiltration missions in Persona 5 are not about the main group of characters. You're not exploring their places, with the exception of Futaba or whatever she was called.
Yeah, except for Futaba.
Yeah,
but
sort of for Haru, I think, since it's like her dad, but generally, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I guess that also just generally will then mean that the characters, like, you're not really privy to their inner struggles as much. But I also appreciate that Persona 5 didn't just completely copy the structure of Persona 4. They tried something.
For sure.
Yeah, it's definitely respectable that Persona 5 was like, we're going to try and do something different. But I think, especially when you're doing like the social links feel so disconnected from everything else.
Yeah.
And I think another problem with them is, so we have this problem where the characters feel like they're all just friends with the main character and that's it. I think by kind of injecting some of the other party members into the social links, that could have alleviated that more, but whatever. But no, yeah, Persona 4, I haven't played it since the PS2 version came out, so it's been a while, but
the golden version's on PC now, and so it's pretty accessible now. Finally,
thankfully.
For the longest time, it only existed on the PS2, where it was expensive to get, or the Vita, which 5 people own. So it's nice to have the game accessible now, because I think that it's it certainly hasn't aged well in some respects, but I still think that it has a lot to offer.
Agreed. Yeah, at least based on what I remember of it, the game still is really great, and like we said before, like even if it does have a few elements in it that are, not as acceptable nowadays, I think it should still be given credit for some of the stuff it tried to tackle around the time that it did.
Yeah, like, honestly, the fact that a game from, what was it, like 2004 or something, like had a gay character who was struggling with his sexuality, like, that's, I feel like that's ahead of its time a bit, and it gets a lot more complicated when you talk about the way that another character's story sort of
Yes.
coincides with trans stuff, and like I think it's well intentioned, but it certainly has some unintentional side effects that aren't amazing. But that's yeah. The fact that the game was trying to tackle these things at all in its time is kind of impressive. And
I would
yeah.
kind of chalk it up to like, I'm not trying to completely excuse it, but I do think it is just comes more down to like around that time there wasn't a ton of information about this stuff as there is compared to today. So I think it should be given at least a little bit of slack of like, hey, they didn't know any better, and they were trying. It was well in meaning at the time. But some of the jokes that they did in Persona 5 with the cross-dressers was just like, oh god, guys, really?
Oh yeah, that was bad. Yeah, and for that matter, Persona 4 has a like fat comedy character that just it doesn't read well. Like there are definitely problems, but thankfully nothing on the level of Catherine's transphobic stuff. Like that's another oof, but yeah.
Yeah, I love Catherine, but yeah, oof. That I know what you're talking about. That stuff's not super great.
It's not good. Catherine's fascinating to me because it's definitely ambitious and interesting. It's just also like if there was ever a story about sex and romance that was written by a straight dude, like that is it. It's very I don't know, just a lot of the premises behind how it approaches it and stuff are very overt in that sense. And then the transphobic stuff isn't great, but it's an interesting one for sure. I like it, but it's got problems.
God damn it, Atlas. Why are you so good yet so problematic? God damn it.
Yeah, they'll figure it out over time. But
yeah, at least with their like mainline Shin Megami Tensei stuff, that's not really an issue. It's mostly the contemporary games where it's more of a problem.
There's also there's a particular director, I forget his name and exact position, but there's a particular guy who's been in charge of Persona for a while who has a lot of is not great on some of these issues, and he is no longer in charge of the series, so I'm interested in seeing how Persona 6 turns out. So
Japan in general isn't that progressive in exploring those issues,
in terms of trans issues in particular. I think we often don't give Japan enough credit when it comes to gay content, but they certainly do have a problem with transphobia.
Yeah,
right
but
now,
the gay content feels like it's always sort of fetishized, and
That's
it's its own little corner. Ask me to name even one gay character in a mainstream anime. I can't.
Oh god, I'm trying to think. Just unambiguously gay.
Yeah.
Can't.
Max,
I mean, I guess it depends on mainstream. I'm watching Bloom Into You right now, which I feel has gotten a decent amount of traction, and it's just straight up about two girls falling in love.
Bogan,
but
have you watched?
There was also Yuri on Ice.
Bogan, have you watched
Yuri on Ice. That's
JoJo's
true.
Bizarre Adventure? The gayest show ever made.
JoJo is one of those things that I don't remember if there's ever actually a non-straight character, explicitly non-straight character in JoJo, but also they're all that show is gay as hell.
Well, they have
that is the
Squalo
most
and Tiziano in season 5 who are definitely gay, but you cannot.
Okay. Yeah, I've only seen.
But no, they're not outright gay.
Squalo and Tiziano. He's fucking stroking his fingers on his friend's nipple. What do you think that is?
Oh, also, let's give some credit to Sailor Moon, which is only not gay because America tried to make it not gay, but is super gay. And that's an old one, too.
Oh, they're the best cousins ever, right?
Also, let's give, Homer is definitely in love with Monica.
Oh, absolutely.
I guess that's not made explicit in the show
true.
itself, but, come on.
That is actually a good example. But it's never, they'd never come out to say it.
Yeah, it needs to be explicitly said more. That's for sure. And that's something that American animation, weirdly enough, has been getting a lot better about lately. There's a lot of much more like just straightforward, yep, these are gay characters in this animated show for teens or kids or whatever, you know, like that's just a thing
I don't even like I'm not even saying it needs to be about them being gay, but for example in The Expanse there's just one character who randomly will just phone or have like conversation over the phone or over the view screen with their partner, and their partner happens to also be a woman. And it's never mentioned. It's just
It's just a thing.
It's just a thing. It's just they're a couple.
That's sort of the safe way to
and
do
it happens
now,
to be
I
two
guess.
women.
Bogan, you beautiful baby boy. Are you forgetting that the entire ending of season 1 of Code Geass happens because the girl has a lady boner for Princess Euphemia?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. There's that too.
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay,
That
so
is
we have
very
3
true.
characters or something.
Which gets back into the fetishization thing in that case, I think. But yeah.
But like, I think the more that this stuff is just treated as normal, I think that that's better for everyone. Like, I don't think it needs to be super explicit every time. Like, it can just be like, oh yeah, she's just calling her partner, and her partner is the same sex. And
It doesn't have
like,
to be a major thing all the time. Yeah, just, you know,
Right.
there are a lot of games and anime and stuff that tends to, like, sort of include it, but stop short of actually, like, confirming anything, and I can see how that's very frustrating.
My
for
favorite is
a group of people who are looking for more representation.
my favorite is when every 6 because Disney. My favorite is when Walt Disney every 6 months they print out an article that goes Disney's first gay character because they always screw it up
Yep.
somehow.
Yup. Yep.
but like I was saying, like I just think it's overall, like, we just need to treat it as normal. Like, if we don't make a huge deal about it, and it's just like, yeah, that's just how these characters are. I think it just needs to be normalized so that when people start telling more in-depth stories about these issues and or just like more personal stories about their gender and their sexuality, then like it's not. I guess we're always going to have people making a stink because people have to be shitty, but like, I think on the whole, it'll be more accepted if we just normalize it more and it's treated as normal. And then that leads to better stories, and it leads to more people being personal about, yeah, I'm gay and I want to tell this story about me and my partner and fucking whatever.
Yeah. We're getting there, but, you know, slowly, and we're still at a place where every time there's a gay character, a bunch of dudes on the internet get all like, oh, it's shoving it in my face, and, you know, whatever. We'll get there.
I fucking hate that
another-
whenever they
and
say
another-
that, because what they don't understand is because they're straight, they've just had all this straight shit all their lives.
Yup.
How do you think you would feel if you were gay? If you were gay, then wouldn't you think that straight content has been being shoved down your throat your entire life?
It's like the whole keep politics out of games thing. All it means is only do the politics that I'm so familiar with that I don't really like notice them.
But as you were saying, one group of guys is saying, "Don't stuff it in my face," and another group of guys is saying, "Hello, stuff this in my face."
No, see, the trick is when the gay character is outright gay, then it's like, don't shove it in my face. But when the gay character is just happens to be gay and it doesn't matter to the story, then it's like, well, if it doesn't matter to the story, then why does he need to be gay?
Oh, I know, right? It's the worst.
It's these people are just bigots, and they're just finding excuses to complain.
It's a thing that I'm very familiar with because I was raised in a conservative, like, evangelical Christian setting, and that is always, like, I engaged a lot in the same rhetoric for, like, sex scenes in movies or whatever, and it's not because there's actually something wrong with having that content without a super compelling narrative reason or whatever. It was because we started from a place of viewing it as a bad thing that shouldn't be there, and we're only ever okay with it being there if we could point to some kind of, like, oh, well, yeah, see, it's important because of this thing that I do recognize as good as important, because otherwise it's, but like, it. That's the thing about that, is that logic inherently comes from a reasoning of it's bad and shouldn't be there unless you can convince me otherwise. and it's a very toxic place to come from, and it's not good.
Man, we really got away from Persona 5.
We did, yes.
For 4.
The
Persona
point
4.
is that Persona
Although not
4
really.
has...
Not really.
Well, yeah, we're definitely still talking about elements of Persona 4, and yeah, it's one of those things where I don't, especially because like I'm a straight cis dude, so like I don't the issues with how Persona 4 deals with some things are not things that affect me personally. So obviously, I'm in more of a place to be like, yeah, it has problems, but it's still good anyway. Like, ooh, I'm getting thunderstorms out here. Anyway, but
It's
like
God.
I do,
You talk too much about the gay, and now God is mad.
Exactly. But yeah, it's something where I think it's worth looking at the perspectives of people who are actually like directly affected by the problems that the game has. But as far as I'm concerned, I do think that it's a game that has a lot of that is well intentioned, even if it's not always perfect at what it does, and that overall, in terms of its writing and structure and characters and things, I think that it has a lot to offer. And personally, it was a major influence on me. It made me feel a lot of things and sort of helped me gain an understanding of myself, I feel like, which is definitely a thing that it's, wants you to think about. And it was just, it's really good, and I like it. And I just wish that the sequels and spin-offs and stuff that they make would have like a who did you romance option so that I could tell it that, and it could just throw a line in or two, like just have Chie say something to me. Like, it's really not that hard to just like... to just have a couple lines of dialogue in Persona 4 dancing all night acknowledging the person I love. But, whatever.
You're a man of culture, by the way.
Yeah, no, that was another fascinating element of it for me, is because I have a type in terms of people I romance in video games. Chie is not it. But man, I fell for Chie pretty hard. So that was
interesting.
It was an illuminating experience. I met Yukiko and was like, oh, okay, well, this is the character I'm romancing then, I guess, because this is very much the type of character I romance. And then Chie just showed up, and I was like, well, I guess not. I guess this is happening now.
So literally, you're that meme where you're walking with Yukiko, but you're turning around and looking at Chie.
Sort of, I guess. Yeah. Look, I watched Clannad at a young age, and my that's the show that like broke me and made me cry. Like, I didn't cry in things, and then I watched Clannad, and now I cry in everything.
That's the one that'll do it.
My preference. What?
What is that?
It's an anime based on a visual novel, and it's one of those anime that's like, oh, look at this cute little like high school romance thing. Anyway, we're gonna shatter your heart now. Like, it's really good, especially like the second season series, whatever, After Story is when it gets just like really, really good. But it destroys you real intensely, and it's good. But anyway, yeah, just I tend to, that's a consistent thing for me. I romanced Meryl in Dragon Age 2. Like
that was the
it's
elf
usually the
girl?
character type. The Dalish elf.
I remember her.
Yeah, like I said, I've got a type, and then Chie just kind of smashed it and was like, no. And anyway, I'm just saying,
the gay character in Dragon Age 1. And
yeah.
There was actually a story that was then not about them being gay at all.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah, when BioWare started actually, being good about that sort of thing, I feel like they
that was so
did pretty
subtle.
Well. Yeah.
I remember...
in Dragon Age 2, it was Isabella who was bi, and then there was the Anders, I believe?
Yeah, Anders is...
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's bi. I forget exactly. He could just be gay, but I think he's bi. Oh, no, I think everyone in Dragon Age 2 is bi, now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure that every character in that you can romance regardless. Which is not a realistic approach, but I like it anyway.
Isn't Dragon Age... Isn't that like super evangelical, that religion of that universe?
Sort of.
Interesting.
I think so.
Sort
yeah.
of. Honestly, I think that Inquisition in particular is one of the more interesting explorations of religion in video games, specifically because it puts your character in a position where a lot of people think that you're like an important figure to this religion, and you get to decide based not only on what you think of it, but also what your character's past is. Like, if they're an elf, then they already have another religion and stuff. Yeah. And you get to sort of, as it goes, decide whether you're going to play into that, whether you believe it, whether you don't. It's really fascinating.
It's like...
Inquisition has a lot of problems, but I like a lot of other things about it, too.
So this is really weird. I've only played Dragon Age 2. I have not played Dragon Age 1 or Inquisition.
That is
and
weird.
get this. Get this. This is going to be even weirder. I platinumed Dragon Age 2.
You're a
hated
monster.
the game by the end of it. No, this was during a time where I was platinuming every single game that I owned. And Dragon Age 2 was what made me want to stop doing that.
I'm
because
sure, yeah.
I also platinumed Fallout 3, which also made me hate the game
man.
by the end of it.
Yeah.
I hated Fallout 3 so much by the end of it that I still haven't played New Vegas.
Man.
Because, like, I was so burnt out. I was just like, I fucking can't handle this. But yeah, Dragon Age 2, I played so much of it. I think I did like 3 or 4 full playthroughs. And I by the end of it, I was just like, fuck this game forever.
I am a Dragon Age 2 defender. I think it's good, but also
Jesus
playing
Christ.
it that much would be a lot.
Speaking of
Yeah, and that wasn't even doing the DLC. Like, I didn't even touch the DLC, and I was just like, I can't handle this anymore.
Going back to when you were talking about romance options, I remember Daniel once told me that Fire Emblem only became good after they included the waifus. But back on Dragon Age.
No, I did not.
Back on Dragon Age.
No, I did not. That is not what I said.
said that.
I said the opposite.
He said that or the opposite. I
Fucking-
think it was that, though.
No. Path of Radiance is the best Fire Emblem. It has none of that shit. Awakening is fine though. Like, but that's when they added all the shipping and
Awakening was
know.
my first one, and I know that means that I'm not really qualified to comment on how it relates to the older ones, but I really, really loved Awakening, so...
my problem with Awakening is that the main story has like nothing going on. It is all character based, and to its credit, I do think that a lot of the character interactions are fun, and trying to like ship all your characters together is really fun, and it's cute, and it is nice to like pick a girl that you like and ship her with your main character and stuff like that. But like, it's the prestige, man. When you look at that, and then you look at Path of Radiance, and you see like Ike, the main character, go through this like journey where he fucking matures and he grows up, and he has to deal with his dad passing away. That's not much of a spoiler. That's like really early in the game, and he has to grow up, and he has to like become the leader of the mercenary guild, and then people leave because they don't trust in him, and then he has to deal with the fact that he's grown up with these bigots, and then when he sees the diversity of the world, and then he hangs out with like the other people, and then realizes that they're just like just as human as he is, even though they have like their furries and with tails and stuff. Once he realizes they have their own
people. I thought you meant
Yeah,
like they dress
yeah.
up in costumes and stuff.
No. But like, seeing him go through that growth and then like learn to accept others for who they are, and to have all of them join him because he's such a, not even like because he's like a charismatic leader, but just because like he has such strength in his convictions, and that he's able to, see everyone on like a personal level, and is able to like communicate with all of them. Like, Path of Radiance is so fucking good, and Awakening doesn't even come close when you consider all of that. And I'm not.
Yeah,
and again,
there's certainly something that you lose when you make the main character like sort of a point of view, you can project yourself onto them character instead of a character, and it's not necessarily a bad thing because it comes with other benefits, but like, yeah, you can't really have that super complex and compelling narrative of the protagonist in the same way, and I definitely understand that frustration.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to shit on Awakening and make it seem like Awakening's terrible and you shouldn't play it. Like, I put a bunch of hours into Awakening. It's a good game, but like, it's the prestige of what came before it that just makes me just a little sad.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we're all done. I think we've all exhausted all of our talking points to their logical conclusions.
Yes.
Now we have to vote, which is the best game
Majora.
of the four we mentioned.
It's gonna be a 4-way tie, I feel.
Yeah,
No, it's a Majora.
near obviously.
I don't know. I might actually just go for Nier just to like,
Yeah!
make it so that there's a winner because I also love Nier.
Damn.
But
Well, I'm not going
My
for
man.
Majora, so I guess you guys win.
Fuck you, Pokken, you monster.
Before we wrap up, Acer, what have you been up
I
to?
released my,
Because you're such a busy
I
bee.
released my video game, Daniel, in the interim between recording last podcast and this podcast. So now I am the official game designer of the Essays and Espresso podcast, and you'll have to address me as such.
I also finally got around to watching your Shadow Tower video. I know you released your Last Guardian video since then, but I haven't played Last Guardian yet.
Yeah,
ooh, I
unfortunately.
love that one
it's so good.
personally.
I need to get around to it. But having not played Shadow Tower, I did find your video interesting. Just seeing kind of like it felt like a continuation of your Kingsfield videos. So it was nice to see it and be like, oh, okay, so like this is. I feel like though, I understand why you did it this way, but like I feel like it would have made a little bit more sense in terms of the timeline if you would have put Shadow
I've
Tower
done it with
before
proper
you
chrono-
made your
Yeah, I even
before if you put Shadow Tower before Kingsfield 4.
I even in the video when I was making it, and I say it in the video, I realized that I should have just done the FromSoft by release rather than do each series independently.
Yeah, because you kind of miss their evolution as developers when you do it like this. But like whatever, it's still a good video. I'm not chastising.
What's the game you made called?
Snail! I'll send you a link if you want to check it out. Snail! Exclamation mark. Yeah, it's currently the highest rated game on itch.io. It has an aggregate review score of 5 out of 5 stars. 4 reviews.
All right.
So yeah, I'm basically
Well, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna have to get in there and make sure.
no, don't.
Well, you didn't know what I was gonna say.
Oh, okay. Whew. I'll
I've got to make sure it stays that way.
Whoa,
Oh,
friendship.
look at that.
Hey, maybe the
Yeah.
real Persona 5 was the Persona 4 of us all along. Friendship.
Yeah. That sentence made sense, and I agree with it.
But yeah, I'm also I'm
So
also playing. I'm completing Shadow Tower Abyss right now. I'm doing another.
how is that?
It's a very different game from Shadow Tower 1. It's good, but it's very, very different. It's a lot harder. Like this game, actually to the point that I have completely given up on playing the game as designed, and I'm just using save states right now because it's kind of a mess with difficulty. But I think if I play it again, I'll be able to overcome it. It's good, but it's good with a big but.
With an asterisk.
Yeah, with an yeah.
Buckin, what have you been up to?
We never talked about my BoJack video, I guess, even though it's been out for
we
months.
didn't?
No.
Ooh.
I thought I told you that I really enjoyed it, but
Yeah,
I'll
you told
tell
me
you.
in Discord.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well,
The favoritism.
I really enjoyed it.
Well, that-
as a fan of BoJack, I really appreciated it, and I think it was a really interesting video in the sense that it wasn't like a straightforward just like, hey, let's analyze the show. It was more specifically like the show has a lot of unique narrative techniques that it employs for very specific episodes, and I thought it was really interesting to see you break that down and be like, okay, so we have the funeral episode in which like the majority of it is just focused on BoJack, and it's him telling the story, these like kind of like random stories, sort of about his mom, sort of not really sometimes, and it's like this weird like stream of consciousness, and then it ends on that fucking gag, and it was just, I love that episode, but like. But one thing I really appreciate about the video was that you make it clear that like, hey, this is not the only episodes. It's not just like in isolation there, and you just list a bunch of other episodes. Like, this is just something that BoJack does. It's like it has these like really fascinating like narrative techniques and visual like symbolism for different ways of conveying the character's thoughts and feelings. So, good stuff, my man.
Yeah,
thank you.
Even though I think Rick and Morty is the smarter show, I really liked it. I was waiting for Daniel to stop talking so I could say that joke.
Here I am, just like fucking, patting Boken on the dick. It's just for you to say that.
Well,
There is, for some reason, in the BoJack Horseman subreddit, a reference to Rick and Morty, and that you're not allowed to mention that show in the subreddit. I do not know why.
Oh yeah, I'm sure something happened.
Something happened. It might have included Asa, I don't know. But yeah, otherwise I haven't been up to anything. I don't know, that even though I'm proud of that video, that really didn't pull a lot of views. So now I'm like, whatever, man, fucking YouTube.
Yeah, that happens a
Fucking
lot.
YouTube. No, yeah, I feel you on that.
I kind of want to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean 4 for my next video, and I just feel bad about. I know I have most of the subscribers from my Legacy of Kain video. And I assume none of them want me to keep talking about anime and TV and films, but I have nothing to say about games right now.
Yeah, how about fuck them? You do what you want.
Oh, yeah.
I could just, oh my god, I could just imagine like some hardcore like Legacy of Kain fan who's only into like dark fantasy, and you just like bust out a video on like Madoka out of nowhere, and they're like, "What the fuck is this shit?"
I don't know, I feel like Monica counts as dark fantasy.
I would agree, but like they don't know that.
That's fair.
They just see like cute anime girls, and they're just like,
Yep.
So I've been working on a couple of things here and there. My video about MMOs is going to be coming out soon. I just need to edit it together. I had to redo the script read a couple of times because the first time the audio just wasn't to my liking. But then the second time I had my fucking oil diffuser on.
Oh
so
no!
That yeah, without realizing it, and then I'm like, oh, let me just use noise reduction. That should help, right? Wrong. My voice sounded like shit the entire time.
Yep.
What the fuck is an oil diffuser?
It's like this little device where you pour water and oil in it, like scented oil, so that it sprays out in a mist in your room, so that it gives your room like a pleasant smell.
I don't think, Daniel,
Okay.
I've ever heard as much of a first world problem as my audio was ruined by my oil diffuser.
My lava lamp was picking up in the background.
Yeah, by the way, my watch was on my table while we were recording. I hope my mic didn't pick that up.
Your watch?
Yeah, my...
Like we were gonna have constant ticking in the recording?
It'll
Great.
I'll preempt the podcast by saying I put that in there deliberately as a nod to Majora's Mask.
There you go.
Oh,
So meta.
Damn.
Thank you.
But yeah, that video should hopefully it will be up by the time this podcast episode goes up. So there's that.
You should hurry up because King K is making an MMO episode as well. And I think it would be very weak of you to lose to him.
Daniel, he's my mortal enemy. You have to defeat him.
Oh, look at that! Is it? I just realized King K is our next guest.
Oh yeah, fuck.
Oh, cool.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
Oh,
Although I probably can. I don't think he'd say no.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I just provided him with a bunch of World of Warcraft footage, so he owes me one.
Oh yeah.
fine. I'll bury the hatchet for one episode.
You gotta abuse your clout, Boken. But aside from that, I've been like kicking around this idea of like possibly doing a video on Lisa.
Oh.
Not Lisa the Painful, but Lisa the First.
Right.
And I'm still debating it because like if I'm gonna do it, I want to go all out, but then that's gonna take a lot of time.
I know that feel, bro.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Because I feel like Lisa the Painful gets tons of attention. I'm sure it's well deserved. I haven't played it yet, but like I played through Lisa the First, and I was like, whoa. And nobody's talking about this. And I think that, I don't know, you can call me a hipster if you want, but like that always kind of fascinates me of like, hey, I want to talk about this thing that not a lot of people are talking about. Not always. I mean, obviously I have a video on Shadow of the Colossus, which is a very talked about game. But like even then, I think in my video I talked about it in a way that most people haven't. So I try to like, not to say that I'm super original, but at the very least, I like to try and add to discussion. I think that more than anything is the purpose of a lot of the videos I make, where I'm trying to add to discussion at either that or I just want to express something that speaks to me personally. So since I just finished the game Before Your Eyes, I was kind of contemplating like making a video on it and mortality there, and kind of like dive into that, and it'll kind of discuss not only like my personal journey through the game and how it made me feel, but also just kind of like taking a deeper look at some of the things that it's trying to convey. So we'll see. I've always got ideas coming and going, so we'll see what sticks and what turns into a video. Sam, do you have any projects that you would like to discuss that you have in the works?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I could just go over some of them briefly because, like I said, I'm trying to do this as a full-time thing right now. And if I've got like a couple months of unemployment benefits to give it a shot, to try and see if I can make this into a thing that I can actually do full-time. I've been loving it so far, and I would really love to make it work if possible. So it's been like
I want that for you.
Yeah,
I love your content.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's gonna work. So basically, I've been working on because I also moved, relatively recently. My set isn't done quite yet, so I haven't had a chance to film any of these. But I have 3 episodes written, and I just need to film and edit them. So hopefully, I'll do that this next week. One of them is about the game A Short Hike. And specifically the way that it...
love that game.
Yeah, because like when it started up, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I see. It's going to be this like, oh, don't be buried in your phone. Nature is good. And then I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised to find out that it's actually a game about how both nature and technology can be a connecting force and relationships are important. And I'm like, yes, good. This is good. I like how it did this. So I wrote a video about that. I've got another video written about the Hildebrand quests in Final Fantasy XIV.
I thought you were joking about that.
Oh, no, I'm not. I have a whole video written about it, and specifically the way that it does slapstick by utilizing expectations about game animation systems to sort of like make its slapstick stuff like really unique to a video game and make it work really well. That is a script that is written, and I will be filming it this week. So
You are my guy. Holy shit.
everyone who wanted me to make a video about Heavensward's like super accurate and insightful depiction of theocracy, sorry, I am talking about the silly detective guy. So that'll be fun. And
I
then
mean,
I also
I would also love a video on Heaven's Ward, but this Hildebrand video sounds fucking awesome.
yeah, I am like working around to see if I have enough like unique and interesting stuff to say about it, because Heavensward is really good. But I'm working
Yes.
on like
Yes,
how,
it is.
I'm working on whether I have a video in me about it, and so I might still, but we'll see. And then, of course, I also have written my literary analysis of Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, and I'm currently working on writing a literary analysis of Halo 3, because people have been wanting that for a long time since I did the first two.
Cool.
And so, yeah, those are kind of the main projects that I have right now. I'm hoping to get them, like, pretty much all finished soon and then scheduled for, like, bi-weekly releases so that I can have regular content on YouTube for a while. And, yeah, We'll see how that goes. So, if
Cool.
any of you want to go to youtube.com/gamesasLiterature, that's where that is. And I would love, people watching my stuff and sharing it and giving on Patreon if they're interested in that, because I would really, really love to be able to make this my job.
Totally.
So we'll see.
To everyone watching, if you're listening to us, myself, Boken, and Acer, I would imagine it's because you're a fan of our videos. If you enjoy our videos, you will enjoy Sam's videos. Please give him a shot. Really good stuff.
I
And if you
appreciate
feel
that.
so inclined, contribute to his Patreon as well. He's a great dude, as you've heard throughout this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, dude.
Of course.
Really a pleasure.
Yeah, it's fun.
And that's going to be it for us today. We will be back, as we always are. Stay frosty.
Good job.